Chapter 14:16. The absorption this time had exceeded Chu Yang's expectations. In his opinion, the dragon and phoenix skeletons had already been here for 100,000 years. Even if they originally had powerful energy, with the passing of 100,000 years, they should have long been depleted. Smart kids remember Network Super Fast Hands update, but he never expected that this dragon and phoenix had already reached the indestructible body before they died. And when the world changed and they knew that they were doomed, they used special methods to preserve their energy, so much so that Chu Yang and the rest had absorbed less than half of it after 5 days, not even 1/3 of it. And the function of the array formation had already been activated to its maximum limit. Chu Yang and the other 11 people were all close to saturation. In their danshans, dense fog first appeared, then gradually turned into a thick fog. The thick fog turned into a liquid like flowing water. When it was completely swollen, at a certain moment, it suddenly turned into a little solid. Then, it grew bit by bit. Now, each of them was already the size of a duck egg. Golden light shone in their danshans. Everyone felt pain. This was because at this rate, the brothers would explode sooner or later. Chu Yang was also somewhat helpless. The tribulation sword wanted to absorb, but he stopped it. But now, it seemed that he still had to use the tribulation sword and the tribulation space. In desperation, Chu Yang could only give the order. The sword spirit hurriedly directed the tribulation sword to start absorbing. He didn't forget to tease, Swordmaster, why? Before he could finish, Chu Yang glared at him with a black face. He immediately swallowed the words that he had yet to say. The tribulation sword cheered and somersaulted on its own. Then, it attached itself to Chu Yang's meridians and started to absorb at full power. With the addition of the tribulation sword, the speed of extraction obviously became faster. Before long, it doubled again from the current basis. On the dragon and phoenix bodies, the light extended forward at a speed visible to the naked eye. There was a boom in the cave, as if a small whirlwind had suddenly appeared outside the cave. Yu Lingxue seemed to have sensed something. He raised his eyebrows in surprise and turned his head to look at the cave. Then, he turned his head back again and focused on guarding the cave. He muttered to himself, "These little ones are really blessed with great fortune." After a full 8 days, the tribulation sword was full. There was also a huge amount of dragon and phoenix essence stored in the tribulation space. This time, the absorption was coming to an end. The bodies of the dragon and the phoenix began to glow as if they were about to come to life. Then, the 11 of them saw this scene in their consciousness at the same time. At the top of a mountain, a dragon and a phoenix were discussing something. Suddenly, the color of the sky changed. Then, the ground beneath his feet started to tremble. A destructive tyrannical aura spread out. A look of fear appeared in the dragon and phoenix eyes at the same time. They sensed it. This time, even if the two of them joined forces, they would not be able to withstand even 1/10,000th of the destructive aura. Then, the blue sky seemed to collapse. The ground also began to shake violently. The golden dragon turned around and exchanged glances with the phoenix. "Phoenix King, doomsday is upon us. It seems like you and I won't be able to escape today." The golden dragon's voice was very gentle. "Let's not talk about this now. It's more important to investigate the fate of our 2 races." The phoenix's voice was also very calm and pleasant to the ears. "Are there still dragons and phoenixes? Let's work together," the golden dragon said in a deep voice. The phoenix nodded. Then, the 2 of them activated their divine power at the same time. As the ground trembled, the phoenix and the golden dragon said at the same time, "Strange, there's still hope, but it depends on fate." The golden dragon sighed. "The mysteries of heaven are obscure. We can't check it in detail. If that's the case, let's leave something for our descendants." The phoenix smiled peacefully. The golden dragon also smiled freely. "Anyway, we'll rush out. Even if we self-destruct, we won't be able to defeat that demon. Your words are exactly what I want. If that's the case, let's do it." The phoenix said, "Dragon-phoenix fusion indestructible body?" The golden dragon nodded. "That's right. Dragon-phoenix fusion indestructible body." The phoenix shook her head and smiled bitterly. I didn't expect you and I to fight for the position of overlord for 10,000 years. Today, we have to form an indestructible body together. What a joke. The golden dragon chuckled. Since the birth of the demon king and the unification, I've stopped fighting with you. The phoenix nodded slowly. That's true. Just as the dragon and phoenix were talking, the tremors between heaven and earth had reached the point where it was impossible to stand. The dragon and the phoenix looked at each other at the same time and stretched out their hands. The moment they clasped their hands, the sky suddenly flashed. Through the dust and smoke, one could still clearly see that 8 beams of light had appeared in the sky, leaving behind a brilliant trail of light that was thousands of feet long. They flew into this continent. Then, countless destructive auras shrouded them. Countless stones and debris flew toward the dragon and phoenix. However, the dragon and phoenix's expressions did not change. They just closed their eyes and let their bodies sink toward the ground. The scene turned into darkness. Do you want to leave your name? The golden dragon asked. Haha, I don't want to leave my name behind and embarrass myself. The phoenix smiled faintly. Me too. Phoenix, if there's a next life, let's be enemies again. Actually, throughout our lives, we've never really been enemies. The phoenix seemed reluctant to say this, but she still said it. The dragon and phoenix are not enemies. The golden dragon smiled softly. Yes, we're not enemies. Our two races are just a little too proud. There was a moment of silence in the darkness. The inheritance of the golden dragon is in the dragon core. If the future generations get it, they have to drink my blood if they have the golden dragon bloodline. The inheritance of the phoenix is in the phoenix marrow. If the future generations get it, they can drink my blood. At this point, there was no more movement. However, the 11 people immediately understood the origin of the golden dragon and phoenix. Each of them felt heavy. They were a little sad, but also a little admirable. In the face of the great crisis of destruction, these two seniors of the dragon and phoenix race chose to sacrifice themselves to leave wealth for their descendants. Moreover, they did not reveal their names. The pride in the dragon and phoenix bones was fully displayed here. Their determination and decisiveness in judging the situation were even more admirable. In such a place where the world had changed, they were able to calm down immediately. They formulated countermeasures and then immediately implemented them. If they had been a moment later, the dragon and phoenix would not have been able to complete this inheritance. But they had already decided this when they were strong and healthy. These two were also very clear about the dispute between the dragon and phoenix race. The dragon and phoenix have no enmity, it's just that our two races are too proud. This sentence was really thought-provoking. And the last few sentences showed the open-mindedness of the dragon and phoenix experts. Drink my blood. That was enough. Chu Yang and the others were shocked. However, Ao Xieyun and Rui Butong were even more shocked than the rest of them combined. This was the first time they had seen their seniors alive. Although it was just an image. But, after all, it was alive and could speak. At this moment, the two of them were very excited. It was incomparable. The transmission of the dragon and phoenix essence suddenly stopped. The calamity sword shook and broke out of the absorption range. At the same time, the dragon and phoenix trembled. It woke the 11 of them up instantly. Chu Yang stood up decisively and kicked the soul of the purple crystal at the eye of the array aside, dispelling the array. However, this slight delay caused the spiritual energy of the universe outside to fluctuate wildly again. The 11 of them opened their eyes at the same time. The expressions in their eyes were somewhat complicated. Gratitude, admiration, reverence. With a smack, the golden dragon's claws and the phoenix's claws let go. Chu Yang took a deep breath. He said, Ao Xieyun, Rui Butong, the two of you, start receiving the inheritance immediately. Take out the dragon core and phoenix marrow and drink their blood essence. Quick! Ao Xieyun and Rui Butong shuddered at the same time. With tears in their eyes, they said, Boss. But, the two seniors are already dead. If we continue to destroy their corpses, wouldn't Wouldn't we be worse than pigs and dogs? If you waste their efforts, then you are truly worse than pigs and dogs. Chu Yang's voice was urgent. Their bodies have been preserved here in perfect condition for 100,000 years. Now that their essence is gone, they can't be preserved for much longer. At most, in a few hours, they will completely rot into bones. If the two of you waste this opportunity, then their efforts will all be wasted. Their painstaking efforts would have been in vain, and they would have died in vain. What are you hesitating for? Chu Yang roared. Quick! Ao Xieyun and Rui Butong shuddered and finally turned around with complicated expressions. 10 minutes later, poof, poof. Under everyone's shocked gazes, the dragon and phoenix corpses suddenly collapsed at the same time. Before they hit the ground, they turned into nothingness. As if a gust of air had melted into the world. Not even a single bone was left behind. Everything that had happened just now was as bizarre and absurd as a dream that everyone had just had. However, the dragon and phoenix essence in everyone's dantian was telling everyone that this was not a dream. Ao Xieyun let out a loud cry. Golden light flashed on his body. Suddenly, he twitched twice and fell to the ground. On the other side, Rui Butong had the same reaction and fainted instantly. Chu Yang stepped forward and checked. He said, "They're fine. They're just not used to receiving such a huge inheritance all of a sudden. Keep an eye on them and don't let them move around. They'll wake up before long." The few brothers nodded. Jimo asked somewhat strangely, "Why don't I feel any improvement in my cultivation after absorbing so much dragon and phoenix essence?" Actually, everyone had this feeling. It was just that they didn't say it out loud. Chu Yang's lips twitched. He said, "Although there's no improvement in your cultivation, there's another small universe in your bodies from now on. It can output spirit energy at the same time for you to cultivate. Until you finish absorbing it. This is the real treasure." As he spoke, he explained the whole thing. Only then did everyone understand. All of them were elated. Everyone knew how rare it was to have another source that automatically produced spirit energy in their bodies. Even a mediocre person could easily trample on so-called geniuses with such conditions. Besides, which one of them wasn't a genius to the point of being monstrous? Chu Yang hurriedly instructed Mo Tianji, "Tianji, stay here and watch. I'll go look for something." Mo Tianji's eyes lit up. He said, "There's a reaction." Chapter 14-17. Chu Yang nodded his head lightly. Smart kids remember network super fast hands. Mo Tianji's face was red with excitement as he said, "Then go quickly." He actually urged Chu Yang. Chu Yang laughed out loud and comforted Mo Qingwu. Then, he walked forward. The little girl had just received great benefits and was discussing excitedly with Mo Lei. When she heard that he was leaving temporarily, she didn't even turn her head. She just waved her hand and said, "Go ahead. I don't have time for you now," she continued to discuss with Mo Lei. Jiu Du Xing and the others were also circulating their energy to check the changes in their bodies. They were pleasantly surprised by the new discoveries. With the dragon and phoenix essence in their bodies, the speed of their internal energy circulation had basically doubled. Furthermore, the dragon and phoenix essence had the effect of automatically improving their physique. One had to know that increasing the circulation of inner strength by 1-fold did not equate to training. Instead, it indicated that as long as one's hands and feet could keep up with the circulation of inner strength, then one's attack speed could be doubled from the current foundation. Now, everyone was already considered fast. If it was doubled, what would it be like? At the thought of this, the brothers were so excited that they almost suffocated. Chu Yang calmed himself down and walked in. When he passed by the place where the dragon and phoenix originally stood, his eyes fixed in one direction. He turned his body slightly and walked in resolutely. When the dragon and phoenix essence had just been absorbed, Chu Yang had already received a notification from the sword spirit. "Lord Sword Master, I've discovered the aura of the 7th fragment of the Tribulation Sword." Before this, Chu Yang couldn't be sure. Ever since the sword spirit said this, it was really as if a rock had been lifted. After turning a corner, there was a perfectly round stone wall in front of him. Chu Yang didn't stop at all. He directly reached out and grabbed it. Instantly, a huge hole was created. Although the defense here was tight and strong, it borrowed the power of the dragon and phoenix. Now that the power of the dragon and phoenix was gone, with Chu Yang's current cultivation, this stone wall was as soft as tofu in front of him. He grabbed it. His palm sucked on the stone wall and pulled outwards. A large piece of it with a radius of 40 to 50 feet was pulled out. He casually placed it aside and then the next piece. After a few pieces, a huge hole that was several feet deep had already appeared. Chu Yang went in head first. He had already done this job several times. It was really easy to do. It was a walk in the park. Even a professional miner could only be second to him. Chu Yang dug all the way down, following the Tribulation Sword's guidance. He could vaguely feel that his Calamity Sword was getting more and more excited. The sword energy was moving faster and faster around the sword, and the sword spirit was getting more and more eager, and beneath the stone wall. Moreover, there was an urge to come out, an emotion that couldn't be suppressed. Throbbing, Chu Yang's hands didn't stop. Big stones were thrown from behind him one after another. Finally, the sound of gurgling water came from underground. It was very pleasant to the ears. At the same time, Chu Yang's left eye suddenly became clear, while his right eye became confused. This feeling appeared for a moment, and then disappeared. Then, Chu Yang was startled. In the tribulation space, the sword spirit said, "This is the misty heaven crystal and the evil illusionary jade crystal. They welcome your arrival." Chu Yang was speechless. Were these two miraculous herbs welcoming him too? This is nonsense. The evil illusion jade crystals here are different from the misty heaven crystals and other spirit herbs. The sword spirit said, "They have grown for at least 100,000 years, or even longer. It's only natural for them to possess some spirituality." Chu Yang made an "oh" sound. Then, he nodded. After continuing to dig down another 30 feet, Chu Yang only felt emptiness under his hands. A wave of moist air hit him in the face. He took a closer look. He couldn't help but be stunned. There was actually an underground lake below. The heart of the underground lake. There were two big fountains. They were 1,000 feet apart, and each of them gurgled with spring water. The spring water that emerged from one side was milky white and had a fragrance to it. The spring water on the other side was clear and clear, without any smell at all. The entire lake water was also clearly separated from each other. The one 500 feet side was completely milky white, while the other side was completely clear. They actually didn't invade each other in the same lake, forming a strange underground lake. Anyone who saw this would definitely exclaim that it was strange. Chu Yang jumped down and stood in this milky white spring water. He felt comfortable all over. He naturally knew that this milky white spring water was the crystal spirit spring. Before he figured out the situation, even though Chu Yang was extremely daring and knew that nothing would happen, he still didn't dare to stand in the water of the evil spirit illusionary spring. It was better to be safe than sorry. If he fainted here, he wouldn't lose his life, but it would be very embarrassing. The sword spirit saw Chu Yang's concerns and held back his laughter. He said, "Keep this spring water. I've already guessed the location of the tribulation space." Chu Yang nodded and waved his hand. Immediately, 2 water arrows shot out from the lake and into the tribulation space. Even if they were absorbed together, they were still clearly divided. Chu Yang looked up and saw countless small holes above his head. He didn't know where they led. The side that belonged to the evil spirit illusionary spring was extremely moist and full of water. But the side that belonged to the crystal spirit spring was dry. Chu Yang finally understood how his grandfather and the others found it. It must be that the water vapor of the evil spirit illusionary spring flowed out from here. After reaching a certain space above, the moisture gathered and the water vapor formed a new water flow, which flowed out from there drop by drop. It must have been accidentally discovered by Yang Bao and the others when they were excavating the purple crystal mine, and it was impossible to find the main body of the evil spirit illusionary spring from that direction. Because, who knew where it was? Anyway, it had a lot to do with this side. The sound of flowing water disappeared. The ground below Chu Yang's feet had already become dry. Only the two spring mouths on the left and right were still spewing out mist. But the mist disappeared right after. Chu Yang perked up. He grabbed down with one hand and started digging again. Gradually, Chu Yang's expression became strange as he dug down more than 100 feet. Here, it was clearly sliding down diagonally. If that was the case, could this ethereal heavenly crystal be? Chu Yang pulled himself out and went to the opposite side. As he dug down, he indeed discovered that the evil illusionary jade crystal was also slanting down. Chu Yang gave a wry smile. He channeled his energy and lifted up the entire piece of ground from 100 feet below. It was erected to one side. He turned to look. Sure enough, the spring mouths of the crystal spirit spring and the evil illusionary jade crystal were now less than 200 feet apart. One must know that they were originally 1,000 feet apart. Chu Yang started from the middle and lifted up another 100 feet of ground. The two spring mouths were now less than 30 feet apart. Could it be that these two were originally together? Muttering, Chu Yang began to slowly exert force downward. At this point, he couldn't make any more big movements. Otherwise, if something were to be destroyed, Chu Yang would really be dumbfounded. After digging for 30 feet, Chu Yang was startled as he reached out his hand. It already felt somewhat warm. We're almost there. The sword spirit reminded him, the evil illusionary jade crystal and the ethereal heavenly crystal are different from others. They won't give birth to jade cores and the like. They only produce spring water, I see. Chu Yang had thought that it would be like the mysterious yang jade and mysterious yin jade. It looked like that wasn't the case. Chu Yang lifted up a depth of 30 feet with one hand. The moment he lifted it up, a strange feeling suddenly welled up in Chu Yang. It seemed that on the left, there was a virtuous lady looking at him tenderly and affectionately. She was as beautiful as jade, as beautiful as a flower, and as poetic as a poem. Even if she didn't speak or move, he could still feel the elegant and quiet aura coming from her. On the right, there was a devastatingly beautiful enchantress who could cause the downfall of a country. She was looking at him flirtatiously, coquettishly, making one bold move after another, filled with boundless temptation. Chu Yang was shocked. He hurriedly looked left and right. On the left, there was a piece of milky white spiritual jade lying there quietly. On the right, there was a piece of transparent jade lying there. The distance between the two pieces of jade was less than 5 feet, and he was standing right in between them right now. How strange. Chu Yang scratched his head. These two pieces of jade actually give me the feeling of two great beauties. The sword spirit didn't say anything, but Chu Yang could totally feel it. This guy was looking at him with great interest, watching which piece he wanted to take first. There's a saying, right? Chu Yang narrowed his eyes. Sword spirit? The sword spirit smiled bitterly. Yes. Beauties are like jade, and jade is like a beauty. Now, both pieces of jade are in front of you. Since the day they were born, they have been at odds with each other, trying to suppress each other. Now that they've finally met their destined owner, they naturally have to compete. If you take that piece of jade first, it means that the other piece has lost. The sword spirit said. Chu Yang felt faint. It was just two pieces of jade, and they were actually competing for his affection. Beauties all have petty temperaments. Spiritual jade is the same. The sword spirit reminded him. I want to tell you, don't think of taking both of them together. If you do, they'll be unhappy at the same time. Why? Chu Yang felt faint again. He was thinking about this in his heart. Just like two great beauties sharing a husband. The sword spirit grimaced. Even if they can't resist, they'll still feel uncomfortable. Chu Yang fell silent. The sword spirit's words just so happened to hit the sore spot in his heart. Maybe the sword spirit did it on purpose. As Chu Yang weighed his options in this moment, his heart also became somewhat uneasy. As if sensing Chu Yang's hesitation, the aura emitted by the two pieces of jade became stronger and stronger. It was as if the two great beauties were each using the most powerful means in their lives to display their greatest charm, forcing Chu Yang, the bridegroom, to make a decision. Which bride should he enter the bridal chamber first? Chu Yang's expression was complicated as he struggled internally. Suddenly, He gritted his teeth and said, "Now that they're in my family, I have the final say. They want to decide who's the better one, but I won't allow it." Exerting force with both hands, he grabbed the ethereal heavenly crystal and the evil illusionary jade crystal at the same time. At this moment, Chu Yang could clearly feel the resentment in the hearts of the two pieces of jade. He snorted and said, "Do you think you have the final say in my family? Get in." With a whoosh, the two great herbal medicines were thrown into the tribulation dimension together. The sword spirit was dumbfounded. He really couldn't imagine that the sword master would actually still adopt such a hooligan method even though he had already warned him beforehand. Second update, looking for monthly votes. After midnight, it's the Lantern Festival and also the birthday of our book friend Dancing with the Wind. Let us wish her a happy birthday. Chapter 14:18. The sword spirit arranged for the ethereal heavenly crystal to enter the spiritual spring. In an instant, the water of the spiritual spring surged. The original milky white color instantly merged with the milky white color of the ethereal heavenly crystal that had just been added. It turned into a kind of crystal clear milky white color. This color was like the color of the 10,000-year sky green spiritual milk, but purer. Although it was milky white and not transparent, it strangely gave one a feeling of transparency without any impurities. A faint fragrance wafted over the surface of the spiritual spring, making one feel comfortable all over with just a whiff. Now, as long as he had the fairy seed of life, he could immediately produce something that the fairy race had never dared to obtain. A supreme treasure of heaven and earth that was even better than the spring of life. And this seed of life, Chu Yang was already very confident because that thing was in Duke Yu's hand. And Duke Yu was Chu Yang's friend. It could be said that he already had it in his hands. With the ethereal heavenly crystal and the evil illusionary jade crystal in his hands, Chu Yang felt a powerful aura suddenly rising from the ground beneath his feet. This aura was different from the sharp murderous aura of the tribulation sword, but it had a kind of thick and solid feeling. There was even a kind of simple and honest feeling to it. Chu Yang was shocked by this feeling. This was definitely the seventh fragment of the tribulation sword. It was just that there was actually such a thing in the land of the tribulation sword that cut through the heavens. Following which, the ground beneath his feet split open and a round, oily object emerged from the ground. Chu Yang couldn't help but widen his eyes. He had obtained the tribulation sword. Before this, he really hadn't seen a fragment emerge on its own. But this thing in front of him had really emerged from below. This was really, the moment this round thing appeared, it immediately attracted the tribulation sword's reaction. In an instant, a clear and loud sword sound rang out. Whoosh 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 whoosh, the sword tip, sword edge, sword guard, sword tongue, sword hilt, the segments all shot out at the same time, and sword intent whistled like dragons. They circled above excitedly. And the segment sword was already playing happily with that fellow that had emerged on its own. They flew around, circling back and forth above that fellow, and sword sounds rang out. They seemed to be saying something in their own language. That guy, on the other hand, was somewhat wooden and clumsy. He was like an honest man who was not good with words and was suddenly surrounded by a group of sharp-tongued beauties. He had offended that person. Even after stuttering for a long time, he couldn't let out a single fart. Chu Yang's heart skipped a beat, and he grabbed this guy in his hand. The oval stayed in his palm obediently, as if it was waiting for him to inspect it. He was extremely honest and straightforward. A stream of information flowed into Chu Yang's mind. Chu Yang suddenly understood and smacked his lips. Damn it, I was almost fooled by a broken sword. This incomparably honest-looking, simple-minded, and inarticulate fellow was actually Jian Dun. Tribulation Sword's Introduction. Sword pommel. The head of the sword hilt, also known as the sword head. There was a round hole on it that could be used to tie a sword tassel. Main attack, knock, bump, smash. The form of attack was like a person's elbow. It wasn't sharp, but it was powerful. Moreover, it had a balancing effect on the entire sword. Among all sword techniques, the sword pommel could be used. There were very few of them, but once it was used, it would definitely be a fatal blow. The sword pommel was usually hidden at the back of the sword, not revealing anything. It didn't have a sharp sword tip or a sharp sword blade. It was just very plain and simple. It maintained the balance of the entire sword very silently. Moreover, it connected all the brothers together in the final form. But as long as there was a need, it would attack unexpectedly. Moreover, as long as he struck, it would be a fatal blow. In comparison, this was what a real killer looked like. He wouldn't necessarily flee immediately after a single strike. But it would definitely be a fatal blow. Chu Yang held the sword pommel, but his consciousness was quietly communicating with it. Only then did he realize that although this fellow was a little boring on the inside, it was also really wooden and honest. Towards Chu Yang's welcome, joy and comfort. This guy just accepted it submissively, and he even seemed to be a little panicky. Chu Yang couldn't help but laugh. He casually threw the sword pommel into the air and shouted, "Tribulation sword. Combine." With a sword chime, the sword hilt flew up first and connected with the sword pommel. The sword tongue was the second to fly up. The tip went deep into the sword hilt and connected with the sword pommel. With a clang, the sword guard went up to protect both sides. The sword tip flew up and got into position with a clang. The sword blade flew up with a whoosh, cold light shining. Finally, the sword tip connected with the sword pommel at a swift and fierce speed. With a boom, a faint air current rose from the tribulation sword. At least from the outside, the entire sword was already complete. The entire sword was placed horizontally in mid-air, awe-inspiring. Even though it was motionless, Chu Yang could feel the spirit of a complete tribulation sword that looked down on the world. A realization rose in Chu Yang's heart, perhaps the current tribulation sword was the complete battle form. It was also in a perfect state. Because now, all the hardware needed for a long sword had already been assembled. The current tribulation sword was the original configuration of a newly forged tribulation sword. As for the sword tassel and sword soul, they couldn't have been present at that time. The sword tassel couldn't have been present when the sword was forged, and the sword soul couldn't have appeared on a newly forged sword either. Therefore, the current tribulation sword was definitely not the most powerful, but it was definitely the purest. Chu Yang slowly reached out his hand. The tribulation sword let out a cheerful sword chime and slowly descended, as if someone had gently placed it in Chu Yang's hand. The moment Chu Yang held the sword hilt, the sword intent that was hovering in the air finally descended and attached itself to the tribulation sword. It let out a whining sound, as if it was wronged. Because it was excluded just now. When the pure tribulation sword was formed, other than the sword tassel and sword soul, nothing else could stay on it. Even the sword intent that was derived from the sword itself couldn't. Because if there was a sword intent, someone had to use it and cultivate it to form it. But this wasn't a part of the sword. Chu Yang exhaled softly. The seventh fragment of the tribulation sword was finally in his hands. At the same time, he had some doubts. According to Xue Lei Han, the tribulation sword, that powerful person had only given him 8 small metal pieces. As for the sword tassel, it must be the smallest metal piece that was connected to the sword head and some decorations, but since there were 8 of them, how could there be a tribulation? After all, the sword soul was formless and traceless. If he wanted to find it, where would he need to find it? Sword spirit, when the previous tribulation sword masters searched for the tribulation sword, did they all find the sword soul? Chu Yang asked in a low voice in the tribulation space. The sword spirit's face was originally full of joy. But when he heard Chu Yang's words, he suddenly froze. With his back turned, he said lightly, "Yes." The previous tribulation sword masters all found the sword soul. When he said this, the expression on his face was very strange. It seemed like he was crying and laughing. It also seemed like he was sad and bitter. But his back was facing Chu Yang, so Chu Yang couldn't see his expression at this moment. Frowning, Chu Yang muttered to himself, "That's really strange. The first 8 fragments are all physical objects. If you look for them, you can find them. But the sword soul, how do you find it?" The sword spirit seemed to smile and said in a low voice, "When you find the 8th fragment, you will know where to go to find the sword soul." Chu Yang nodded silently. The sword spirit perked up and said, "Now, it's the sword technique of the seventh fragment of the tribulation sword. Watch carefully, I will demonstrate it for you here." Chu Yang immediately threw the matter of the sword soul aside and widened his eyes. The sword spirit floated out, holding the tribulation sword. He stood solemnly. His body looked completely physical at this moment. At this moment, as he stood with the sword in his arms, a majestic aura immediately spread out. A desolate sword intent slowly rose. It gradually turned heavy and mighty. The next moment, the sword spirit thrust his sword forward, but drew an arc in the air. He spun around fiercely, and the tip of the sword flew back from under his arm. His hand grabbed the tip of the sword. As expected, he was using the tip of the sword to attack. But the strangeness of this attack made Chu Yang's scalp tingle a little. Big Clump has no edge. This is the name of the sword pommel's first move. The sword pommel looks simple and unadorned, without any edge or edge. But, if it really exerts all its power, it can make the blue sky sink. The sword spirit explained and then launched another move. No edge, no chill, dense sword intent. This is the second move. The sword head and tip are both contained and not released. It seems to be a defensive stance. But the sword intent that can be released from this move is the strongest move of all the sword techniques of the tribulation sword. The sword spirit moved slowly. Look, the third move. Life and death is decided by the sword head. This move means that everyone underestimates the power of the sword head, but those who underestimate it in the beginning will never have the chance to re-evaluate it for the rest of their lives, because when they use the sword pommel, they will already be a dead man. Chu Yang watched with rapt attention and nodded slowly. His guess was right. The sword pommel was the most deeply hidden killer of the tribulation sword. The fourth move, only through vicissitudes knows silence. The sword pommel has always been inconspicuous and silent. But there is a saying from the ancients, silence is golden, and it is even more so on the path of martial arts and heavenly Tao. People who were silent usually had a very tenacious temperament. Moreover, silent people make it even harder for the enemy to figure out what is true and what is false. You must know that the more you speak, the more mistakes you make. The sword spirit said, therefore, only after the vicissitudes of the world have changed can one understand the true meaning of silence. But, similarly, it is too late. There was some mockery in the sword spirit's voice. Chu Yang mulled over these words. They actually left a lingering fragrance in his mouth. These four sword techniques were just like the principles of how one should deal with things. However, Chu Yang really didn't expect that such a sword technique that focused on killing would actually contain such principles. It seemed a little ironic. Moreover, although the sword pommel looked silent and unsophisticated, the four sword techniques of the sword pommel were actually all that kind of sinister and vicious killing move. Every move was so terrifying that even Chu Yang, the master of the tribulation sword, felt goosebumps all over his body, not to mention the enemy. Chu Yang muttered the four sword techniques to himself. Then, he closed his eyes and started to dance with his sword. In an instant, he was intoxicated, unsophisticated and edgeless. The sky wants to sink, no blade, no cold, and the sword intent is dense. Life and death is the sword's sharpest, only through vicissitudes knows silence. Today's first update. I wish everyone a happy Lantern Festival. The second update will be at night. I will be back early to write. I originally wanted to stay up all night to finish writing, but I obviously overestimated my physical strength. Happy Lantern Festival, everyone. Chapter 14:19. Chu Yang brandished his sword. For a moment, his heart was filled with pride. Smart kids remember Network Super Fast Hands. It was as if he had become one with the Calamity sword in his hand. It was as if at this moment, he was the sword and the sword was him. Therefore, even though he didn't use his energy to move the sword, the intricacies of the sword technique flowed through his heart like a clear stream. Nothing was left out. Just as the last bit of the sword technique's intricacies merged into Chu Yang's heart, Chu Yang retracted his sword and stood there. The 28 moves of the Calamity sword flowed through his heart one by one. Slowly, they connected. Chu Yang's eyes became brighter and brighter. He didn't breathe for a long time. When the last move, only the vicissitudes of life know the silence of the soul, flowed through his heart, Chu Yang suddenly felt a powerful force surging out from the calamity sword. It entered his meridians and his dantian. Then, the power of the dragon and wind in his dantian was also triggered. Suddenly, wind and clouds surged in his meridians, and he felt as if he was about to explode. Chu Yang only felt that there was power continuously flowing into his meridians. It was endless, as if there was no end to it. Slowly, his meridians seemed to bulge as if they were about to burst his body. He seemed to have made another breakthrough. But at this time, Chu Yang didn't have time to check what he had broken through. He only felt uncomfortable. He had to stop immediately. But he couldn't stop. The power of the calamity sword and the power of the dragon and phoenix energy continued to flow in. Finally, he only felt stars flickering in front of his eyes. He wanted to scream but couldn't. Suddenly, his dantian shook as if it had exploded. Chu Yang let out a low sigh. He fell backward. He fainted. Outside, Ao Xieyun and Rui Butong were still unconscious. The others were watching and waiting at the side. Mo Tianji had his hands behind his back. He paced back and forth at the side with a relaxed expression. There was a faint smile at the corners of his mouth. Mo Qingwu's big eyes looked at the place where Chu Yang had disappeared. Then, she turned back and looked at the place again after a while. Finally, she changed her sitting position. She rested her chin on her hands and looked at the spot, waiting for Chu Yang to come out. After a long time, 8 hours had passed. The sky turned from dark to bright. Another night had passed. However, Ao Xieyun and Rui Butong were still unconscious and motionless. Everyone else was also immersed in their training. No one noticed anything unusual, so they didn't move. However, Mo Tianji felt somewhat uneasy. His brows slowly furrowed, and he muttered in his heart, "It might take a long time to find the calamity sword, but Chu Yang has always done things steadily. But he would never let his brothers wait like this. If it really took a long time, Chu Yang would definitely come out and say something." However, that was not the case now. Inside, did something happen to him? Mo Tianji was worried, but of course, he wouldn't say it out loud. On the contrary, he had to act more and more relaxed to make everyone feel at ease. It was already noon. Chu Yang still didn't come out. Mo Tianji took a deep breath and finally confirmed, something must have happened. Just as he was about to order his brothers to go in and take a look, the moment he opened his mouth, the sky suddenly darkened. Mo Tianji frowned. All the brothers were a little surprised and opened their eyes one after another. Then, they saw a scene that they would never forget. They saw a ray of 7-colored light shoot out of the cave like a huge 7-colored dragon. When it passed by everyone, it even circled around them and then rushed out with a whoosh. Yu Lingxue, who was at the entrance of the cave, had been sitting steadily. As long as there were no cries for help from inside, he would stay here and guard. The moment the sky darkened, Yu Lingxue suddenly narrowed his eyes, as if he felt that something shocking was about to happen. Then, he saw a ray of 7-colored light snaking out of the ground like a dragon. Yu Lingxue's body flashed, and that ray of light rushed out of the cave and rushed into the dark sky. One must know that the real time now was noon. But the fact that the sky darkened strangely was already a great wonder in the world. At this moment, it was as if a god had set off fireworks, and a ray of 7-colored light suddenly shot out. The ray of 7-colored light rushed into the sky and went straight into the clouds. As it went higher and higher, it also became bigger and bigger. Gradually, the entire sky within a radius of millions of miles became 7-colored. A kind of dreamy music that didn't seem to exist suddenly sounded. Everyone who heard it couldn't tell at all whether this wonderful music came from their own hearts or from the sky. Or from the sky. They couldn't explain it, and even felt like they were dreaming. The 7-colored sky rolled and then slowly turned into 7 rays of light. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple. The 7 colors were separated by the purest color. Each ray was 1,000 feet wide and 10,000 feet long, and they stretched across the sky. In the separated space, one could see that the sky was still pitch black. The 7 rays of light stood majestically between heaven and earth. After a while, they slowly started to move. The red light flashed and turned into a sharp tip, like the tip of a sword. It was just that compared to a normal sword, it was billions of times bigger. Then, a green sword tip, a blue sword blade, an orange sword guard, a green sword hilt, a purple sword tongue, and a yellow sword hilt. It actually re-evolved the process of the formation of the calamity sword in the sky. At this moment, everyone on the continent looked up and stared with wide eyes. There was no information or hint as to what kind of sword this was, but everyone understood one thing. This sword was the calamity sword. It was the master of the sky. The calamity sword was finally formed, and it slowly turned in a circle in the sky. Then, the tip of the sword pointed to the sky, and the sword hilt pointed to the ground. It stood in the dark sky like a blazing sun, brilliant and resplendent. After pausing for a moment, the sword suddenly moved slowly, faster and faster, heading straight for the endless sky. As it rose, its speed became faster and faster. Finally, it came into contact with the darkness in the sky. Then, the calamity sword didn't stop at all. It tore through the darkness like it was rotten wood, and went straight up. Everywhere it passed, the darkness in the sky was torn apart and slowly scattered in all directions. The calamity sword rose to an unknown height in the sky. Heaven and earth had returned to normal. The sky was clear and the sun was bright. However, the calamity sword was still flying up, and finally, it slowly disappeared into the void. This time, there weren't any big words appearing in the sky like the previous times. Everything was carried out in silence. The entire process was like a silent pantomime. But everyone understood what it meant. When the calamity sword appeared, who could fight against it? When the calamity sword appeared, it destroyed everything. When the calamity sword appeared, it cut through the sky and earth. Yes, there was no need for any explanation. Everyone understood that. Sorry for the late update. Back home. After dinner, at 10:30 p.m., I put on a coat and went to the roof. I sat there and watched the fireworks. The entire town was setting off fireworks, and the sky was bright and blurry. The rumbling sounds never stopped. In the darkness, I sat there alone and watched quietly. That kind of feeling was very strange. It truly felt like an ethereal dream. I sat there for almost 3 hours, but I still wanted more. Chapter 1420. The calamity sword has finally taken shape again. Yu Lingxue stood up, dressed in white. He looked at the sky with a deep gaze. No one knew what he was thinking about. Smart kids remember network super fast hands. I still remember the last time when the calamity sword took shape. Although it was huge, it couldn't be compared to this time. Yu Lingxue's gaze was a little surprised. Could it be that the calamity sword is different this time? Or, is the sword master different from usual? Yu Lingxue was really curious. 10,000 years ago, when the calamity sword took shape for the 8th time, Yu Lingxue already had a considerable cultivation. The memory of that day was still fresh in his mind. That time, the calamity sword only appeared abruptly in the dark. There was only one sword, and it ended after a few flashes. But this time, it appeared in broad daylight. Strangely, the world suddenly turned into night. It cut through the darkness of heaven and earth, and then it went all the way up and disappeared into the clouds. Everyone had a feeling that when the calamity sword broke through the clouds and reached the world that no one could see, it could still dominate everything. Law Enforcement City. The Dharma Supreme looked at the sky, his expression gloomy and dejected. Once again, the calamity sword took shape. His expression was so gloomy that it was almost dripping water. After a while, he flicked his black robe and turned around. He said calmly, "I'm going out. Send the order for the 2 stars to accompany me." Then, he walked down, his black robe fluttering, revealing a heavy heart. At this moment, different strong reactions were aroused in the great clans. For a moment, the great clans were in a state of panic. The elder masters were even more shocked. A few of them had already started to send messages. They pitied the other great clans. There were even a few who set off immediately after sending the message. Xiao clan. Yi Chen stood with an old man with white hair and beard. Both of them looked rather grim. Brother Chenyu. Looks like the heavens have decided. If we want to change, I'm afraid. Yi Chen came to the Xiao clan half a month ago. The person beside him was, of course, the founder of the Xiao clan, Xiao Chenyu. Xiao Chenyu frowned. He said, no matter what, we have to struggle for a while. Even if heaven's will has already decided, we still can't just sit there and wait for death. He raised his white eyebrows and sneered, besides, in the past 10,000 years, although I have never heard that the Master of Calamity Sword can be replaced. I have never heard that, it can't be done. Replace. Yi Chenchen's eyes lit up. Xiao Chenyu took a deep breath and said, however, I have been feeling uneasy these past few days. I originally thought that something had happened to second brother. Now it seems like it's because of the Calamity Sword Master. Yi Chen replied, oh? Morning Thunder? Where did he go? I haven't seen him for the past few days. Xiao Chenyu said indifferently, I sent him to do something that concerns the life and death of the clan. When he returns, Brother Yi will definitely know. Yi Chen nodded and said, inform the others. Based on the current situation, I'm afraid our 7 great clans will have to join forces. Xiao Chenyu's face darkened. He nodded slowly. It's just a pity that the Li clan betrayed us and the Lan clan suffered a calamity of annihilation. Yi Chen heaved a long sigh. To think that the Khanate formation of the great clans would have already fallen apart before it had even begun, Xiao Chenyu gave a long sigh. In the northwest region, Diwu Qingru stared blankly at the phenomenon in the sky. His face was rather pale. His right hand was clenched into a fist so tightly that his knuckles were actually a little white. He murmured, is this Chu Yang's idea? Or that Calamity Sword Master's idea? How could it be? According to Diwu Qingrou's guess, he was 100% sure that after Chu Yang and the others rose above the storm in the south, their next destination would definitely be the northwest. The Li clan battlefield in the northwest was the key to the Calamity Sword Master stirring up chaos in the world. There was no way they wouldn't come. And once they came, it would be beneficial for Diwu Qingru to build up his strength. Borrowing strength to fight strength, restraining each other, making use of the Li clan as a big piece of cake to make the 8 great clans unite against a common enemy, then he would be able to make plans leisurely. Diwu Qingru even had a thorough plan for how he would operate after they came. But he didn't expect that when they didn't come, and the clans were so anxious to start a war, Diwu Qingru had no choice but to arrange for an attack. Making use of one small battle after another to stall for time. The battles commanded by Diwu Qingru were, of course, always victorious. It was precisely because of this that the clans relied on him more and more. And Diwu Qingrou's own prestige also rose with the tide. But all of this wasn't what Diwu Qingru wanted. On the one hand, he had to maintain and not let the Li clan suffer a destructive blow. On the other hand, he had to maintain his winning record. He tried his best to stall for time and wait for Chu Yang and the others to come and fight with him. But he didn't expect that the Calamity Sword Master didn't come, but he received news that the Calamity Sword Master had obtained the 7th fragment of the Calamity Sword. It turned out that they didn't come this way at all. Diwu Qingrou's wishful thinking suddenly fell through. This made him very disappointed. If it was Chu Yang's decision, then it doesn't seem like Chu Yang's temperament. If it was that Calamity Sword Master's decision, isn't it a little too careless of the big picture? What exactly is going on? Diwu Qingru couldn't figure it out. But he didn't know that this was neither Chu Yang's decision nor Mo Tianji's decision. It was a completely unexpected event that happened all of a sudden. Rui Butong was in danger and the nirvana of the phoenix attracted Chu Yang and the others who were originally about to reach the northwest to the southeast. And the matter of the traitor led Chu Yang back home. After returning home, he received news of the dragon and phoenix bones, as well as news of the 7th Tribulation Sword. Since it was so close, Chu Yang naturally had to obtain the Tribulation Sword first. So, this was a series of causes and effects, but it had nothing to do with the war in the northwest. No wonder Diwu Qingru couldn't figure it out no matter how hard he scratched his head. But in the current situation, Daewoo Chingru had to hold on. He couldn't let the Li clan be destroyed, and he couldn't let himself suffer losses in this aspect. This required methods and schemes. Daewoo Chingru took 2 steps and murmured, "Looks like I have to take measures." His eyes flashed coldly. "Chu Yang, I'll fight for another half a month's time. If you don't come in half a month's time, I can only..." He suddenly turned around and strode away. When Chu Yang woke up from his coma, he found that his body was as light as a feather. All the impurities in his body had disappeared. Even he had a clear feeling of being reborn. He even had a clear feeling the him just now was already dead. And the him who stood up now was the reborn him. He was a different person from the him just now. This feeling was strange and clear. This strange feeling even made Chu Yang search under his body nervously to see if there was any corpse of his, to make sure that he wasn't a soul after death. After searching 1 round, he naturally didn't find anything. Raising his chi slightly, Chu Yang found that the layered heaven divine technique in his body was flowing smoothly like a trickle. Everywhere it passed, there was no obstruction at all. He couldn't help but be shocked. Before this, even if he used all his strength, the layered heaven divine technique, it might not even be able to complete 1 cycle. But now, it could already operate on its own, although it was a little thinner. But after all, it had already formed a large-scale cycle. Such a big change actually happened when he was in a coma. He hurriedly checked his dantian and couldn't help but be stunned again. The primordial real silk in his dantian had actually doubled. And even more. Originally, there were only slightly more than 200, but now, there were actually more than 500. Moreover, there was still a lot of dense purple aura entwining around, as if constantly catalyzing the formation. This is the benefit of the formation of your tribulation sword. The sword spirit said in the tribulation space, the formation of the tribulation sword, and this time, it came out of seclusion in the most perfect state. The benefits given to you are also massive. It is the accumulation of 10,000 years, and it has been channeled into your dantian all at once. If not for the fact that your current body can't take it at all and most of it has entered the tribulation space, you would have thousands of primordial real silk by now. And you can also reach the supreme grade now. But now, you've only reached the supreme grade, surpassing the boundary between immortal and mortal. That's all. Chu Yang was dumbfounded. The sword spirit was indeed the sword spirit. His tone was really fucking big. Just surpassing the boundary between immortal and mortal. And, that's all? That's all? Other than that, a lot of the dragon and phoenix essence in your body has also been activated. The sword spirit said, but this kind of situation has never happened before. Chu Yang nodded. Oh, I see. The sword spirit said, and this time, the benefit of the tribulation sword is not you, but everyone around you. Under normal circumstances, it's the tribulation. Chu Yang was dumbfounded. A conflicted look came over the sword spirit's face. But right now, there are 10 people outside. And you, the tribulation has only confirmed 8. Chu Yang's eyes widened. Huh. And among the 10 people, 2 of them are women. The sword spirit's expression became even more conflicted. Chu Yang opened his mouth. And 2 of them have the same surname. The sword spirit sighed. Chu Yang, huh? So, it's a mess now. The sword spirit rolled his eyes. I'll go out and take a look. Chu Yang walked out anxiously. The sword spirit went back into hiding tactfully. This time, when the tribulation sword was formed, the benefits that the sword spirit received were also unprecedentedly huge. At this moment, he could completely take shape and appear in the air. Whether it was day or night, it no longer had any effect on him. The sword spirit was also anxious to go back and digest the results this time. At this moment, outside, Luo Kedi was making a fuss, today's first update, begging for monthly votes. Second thing, previously, I said that it would explode after the festival, so it will explode today and tomorrow. Third thing, today is my mother's birthday. So, it will explode a little later. But since I promised everyone that it would explode, no matter how late it will explode at least 3 updates. The fourth thing, I bought a set of clothes and a bracelet for my mother. My mother was very happy, and so was I. So the fourth thing is, I am very happy. Because my happiness comes from your support, I would like to invite you all to share my happiness. Thank you for your support and for making me happy. Of course, I will not forget the person who dug the well. Naturally, I will update more and work harder to make all of you happy. So, from today onwards, the frequency of the eruptions will become very frequent. There will be frequent eruptions. So, begging for monthly votes. Chapter 1421. The reason was because of GMO. Smart kids remember network super fast hands. After realizing that there was nothing wrong, Luo Kedi moved closer to GMO. Great Master G. That thing you mentioned, what's going on? GMO pursed his lips and looked up. What do you mean by that thing? Nothing. Luo Kedi almost cried. Great Master. You're my dear Great Master. GMO snorted and rolled his eyes. Even if I don't tell him, he'll find out sooner or later. So, I might as well tell him. Then, I can still have some fun with him. Therefore, he put on an enigmatic look and said, Do you want to thoroughly improve our foundation? Luo Kedi's eyes widened and he nodded vigorously like a chicken pecking at rice. Do you want to be as arrogant as Jiu Duxing and Dong Wushang? He nodded vigorously. Do you want to train crazily and cry secretly after your brother's breakthrough? He shook his head vigorously. There's a way now. What way? You want to know? Yes. You really want to know? Yes. Are you sure you want to know? Luo Kedi was going crazy. He grabbed Jimo's collar. Say it. Or not. Jimo's face was calm. You want to know? At this moment, not only Luo Kedi, even Mo Tianji, who had such good self-restraint, wanted to grab Jimo and beat him up. This guy didn't leave people hanging like this. The veins on Luo Kedi's face were bulging. If he didn't say it, he would really die. If you don't say it, I don't want to live anymore. I'll beat you to death. Luo Kedi patted his butt with one hand and pulled his hair with the other. He was going crazy. I'll say it. It's not a big deal. Look at how anxious you are. Jimo said disdainfully. You bastard. You dig out food from your own as to eat. Luo Kudi shouted loudly. Only after he had shouted the second half of his sentence did he realize that Jimo had agreed. So, he immediately changed his words. Third brother G, Great Master G, hey. What Jimo was most afraid of now was that someone would mention this matter. He immediately flew into a rage. I won't talk about it anymore. Luo Kudi suddenly felt miserable. He grabbed his own mouth and fiercely slapped it. Then, he hugged Jimo's thigh and hastily explained, Third brother G, Great Master, Grandfather. I'm not scolding you. I'm really not scolding you. I'm just being careless for a moment. Really, you're not the only one who has dug out things from his own as to eat, right? Look at my mouth. I'm talking about the heavy pill in my ass. My mouth is incurable. What I meant was, Ayo, what did I say? Luo Kudi was so anxious that white foam was coming out of the corner of his mouth. Jimo, on the other hand, was getting more and more furious. Finally, he roared, You bastard. Shut up. The people around him were already rocking back and forth with laughter. These two clowns were really, at this moment, the rainbow-colored true chi bypassed everyone, and everyone was stunned at the same time. Immediately after, everyone felt their cultivation base increase rapidly. In that instant, he felt as if his body was about to explode. Jimo turned pale with fright. Luo Kudi, I'm talking about when you break through to supreme martial artist grade. The boundary between immortal and mortal can change one's aptitude, but you must remember your own goal. Jimo could clearly feel it. Now, this inexplicable increase in cultivation base would probably cause Luo Kudi and himself to advance directly. He hurriedly spilled the beans from a bamboo tube. After all, after the averaging of the dragon and phoenix essence just now, the brothers' cultivation base was uniformly set at 4th grade supreme martial artists. Dong Wushang and Rui Butong, who had reached 5th grade supreme martial artist first, were forcefully pulled down by the averaging, and the brothers who were originally at 2nd grade or 3rd grade Supreme Martial Artist all became 4th grade Supreme Martial Artists. Then, they could start the distribution of the Dragon and Phoenix Essence. In this way, Dong Wushang and Rui Butong suffered a great loss, but the others benefited greatly. Luo Kudi's face and neck were red, and he endured the discomfort in his body. Damn you! Why didn't you say so earlier? Old, feeling that his meridians were boiling, as if they were about to explode, he hurriedly sat down cross-legged and used all his strength to guide the digestion of the cultivation base in his body. Ao Xieyun and Rui Butong, who were in a coma, also woke up abruptly. The moment they woke up, they immediately felt that something was wrong. The two of them didn't even know what was going on. They each cried out "Oh my God" and hurriedly channeled their energy to guide the energy. Jiyu Duxing, Mo Tianji, Mo Lei Mo Qingwu and the others also sat down one after another, guiding this inexplicable energy through their meridians. Right at this moment, Chu Yang came out of the cave anxiously. When he came out, he saw everyone sitting cross-legged and channeling their energy. Everyone's current situation was exactly the same as his before. It looked like the benefits of the Calamity Sword had already been evenly distributed. The Sword Master's appearance didn't attract anyone's attention. Even the most cautious Mo Tianji and Mo Qingwu, who was most concerned about whether Chu Yang came out or not, didn't sense Chu Yang's arrival at this moment. Because the boiling energy in their bodies had already become the complete dominant force, Chu Yang cautiously paid attention to the changes in everyone. Feeling the rise of everyone's aura, he still felt a little emotional. Although the brothers had forcefully used the Dragon and Phoenix Essence to make an average before this, at this moment, differences were once again revealed. In the end, everyone was different from one another. Just like wealth, when the world was created, if the heavens were to equip everyone with a copper coin, as long as this copper coin started to flow, there would be rapid changes. Many people's copper coins would disappear in the blink of an eye, but many people's copper coins would continue to increase. This was really unfair. Just like this moment. Right now, the one with the greatest change in cultivation wasn't Ao Xie, Yun Rui Butong, Jiyu Duxing and Dong Wushang, but Mo Qingwu. This little girl was truly displaying the power of her freakish physique at this moment. The spiritual energy in the world swarmed over, complementing the benefits in her body like raging waves, breaking through all the obstacles, killing generals and capturing flags, pushing forward unstoppable. Chu Yang could feel that the cultivation in her body started to push forward from 4th grade Supreme Martial Artist, rising steadily step by step. Slowly, it reached 4th grade Supreme Martial Artist, high-level Supreme Martial Artist, peak-level Supreme Martial Artist, and then stopped at the bottleneck of 5th grade for only a moment before her whole body shook. She broke through the bottleneck and reached the beginner 5th grade Supreme Martial Artist, and then pushed forward fiercely. Mo Qingwu's speed actually surpassed Jiyu Duxing and Dong Wushang, and even surpassed Ao Xieyun and Rui Butong of the Dragon and Phoenix races. Jiyu Duxing's speed was second only to Mo Qingwu among the 10 people. And Jiyu Duxing's power. It was advancing at an unprecedented sharp speed. Even when cultivating. It was also like a sword piercing forward with an indomitable will. Not long after Mo Qingwu reached 5th grade Supreme Martial Artist, Jiyu Duxing also reached this position. And Dong Wushang's breakthrough was different from Jiyu Duxing's. Dong Wushang's breakthrough was first to accumulate power, and then, with an earth-shattering speed, a gap suddenly appeared in the essence in his body like the Milky Way. It rushed over very vigorously. That was a kind of resolute and unstoppable attitude. The fourth was Ao Xieyun and Rui Butong. The two of them advanced at almost the same speed, one like a divine dragon soaring, flying forward, the other like a phoenix spreading its wings, flying all the way. Then it was Xie Danqiong's turn. After Xie Danqiong, it was Mo Tianji. Then, it was Mo Lei. Last in line were Ji Mo and Luo Kedi. The two of them were also cultivating and breaking through very quickly. But compared to the first 8 people, they were clearly inferior. Feeling all this, Chu Yang suddenly thought of the 12 influential people in the 3 heavens in his previous life. Black Demon, Dark Bamboo, Lone Guest, Poison Spirit, Tianji, Li Xiongtu, Black Saber, Qian Hao, Duke Xie, Meng Luo, Viburnum, Tian Rui. Now, among these 12 people, Black Demon, Gudu, Tianji, Black Saber, and Duke Xie were all in front of him. Although their speed differed, overall, it was about the same. In his previous life, Jimo and Luo Kedi were not selected. At this moment, it seemed that this ranking in his previous life was still reasonable. Compared to these 12 people, Jimo and Luo Kedi's aptitude was really slightly inferior. Chu Yang frowned and thought to himself, this time, I must succeed. In the tribulation space, Chu Yang had already prepared 2 sets of blooming and fading flowers and 2 sets of heavenly moonlight. The blooming and fading flowers and heavenly moonlight complemented each other and could allow people who were breaking through the boundary between immortal and mortal to be reborn. At the very least, it could also improve people's aptitude. This effect was what the sword spirit said. Now, Chu Yang was secretly praying in his heart. This theory must work. Just as the other 8 people broke through to supreme martial artist level, Jimo and Luo Kedi were also sweating. Their thoughts were almost chaotic as they tried to break through the bottleneck of supreme martial artist level. Jimo's whole body was covered in blood as if it was going to spurt out from the surface of his skin. But with an almost stubborn persistence, he shouted, "Change aptitude." On the other side, Luo Kedi could no longer speak, but he was still trying his best to persevere. Time and time again, that kind of pain like death by 1,000 cuts couldn't change his determination at all. Improve aptitude. Chu Yang's heart was a little hot. This was Jimo and Luo Kedi's biggest worry. But aptitude was innate. How could it be easy to change it? Although they worked hard, although they desperately wanted to change, but this kind of change in aptitude and aptitude was not something that could be done with hard work. If it wasn't for the coincidence that it became a tribulation, Jimo and Luo Kedi might, feeling Jimo and Luo Kedi's roars in their hearts, feeling the 2 of them failing to break through to supreme martial artist level time and time again, every failure was as painful as being pierced by thousands of arrows and being dismembered by 1,000 cut. But the 2 of them still rushed forward with determination. I don't want to be left behind by my brothers. I don't want to be a burden. I also want my brothers to be proud of me. Chu Yang's eyes were slightly hot. With a thought and a command, the blooming and fading flowers and heavenly moonlight started to merge in the tribulation space. The heavenly moonlight suddenly enveloped a patch of blooming and fading flowers. Then, the heavenly moonlight shrunk, and the blooming and fading flowers also slowly became smaller. Gradually, the heavenly moonlight disappeared, and so did the blooming and fading flowers. In the intertwined space, 2 clear water droplets floated in the air, spinning and reflecting thousands of rays of light. Seeking votes. GRQ. Chapter 1422. Just as Jimo and Luo Kudi were about to attack again, Chu Yang picked up 2 water droplets with lightning speed. He took them out of the tribulation space and shook his hand. Smart kids remember network super fast hands. 1 water droplet fell into Jimo's mouth, and the other one fell into Luo Kudi's mouth. Chu Yang could clearly see that 1/3 of the water droplet had already evaporated in this short period of time from when he had attacked to when the 2 of them had opened their mouth. No wonder Sword Spirit said that this thing can't be taken out. Chu Yang was a little scared. It's just that so much evaporated in such a short period of time. Wouldn't there be nothing left if I took it out like this? Jimo and Luo Kudi had reached the final juncture. If they couldn't break through this time, their meridians, which were already full of scars, would fall apart in an instant. But the 2 didn't have the slightest intention of giving up. Both of them had a stubborn belief, such a heaven-sent opportunity, such a heaven-sent favor. If we can't break through and change our aptitude, then we'll just die here. At this moment, they suddenly felt a burst of coolness in their blurred senses. Then, they felt that a thin crack had suddenly appeared in the solid bottleneck. The 2 of them were overjoyed. They rushed over at the same time. There was a loud boom. Their bodies trembled at the same time. Blood spurted out of their 7 apertures. Some of the pores on their bodies also spurted out a thin mist of blood. But, they had finally broken through this hurdle. Then, the 2 of them followed what they had said before. They wanted to change, but they didn't know how to change. They just urged their martial power and rushed forward. Then, the two of them felt a burst of coolness enter their bodies at the same time. The moment it spread throughout their bodies, this coolness suddenly turned into a boundless raging fire. It swallowed all of their meridians from top to bottom. In an instant, their internal organs were also affected. The two of them let out a hoarse scream at the same time. Blood spurted out of their mouths like crazy. They fainted. Jiu Du Xing and the others had already woken up. They saw Chu Yang standing beside Jimo and Luo Ku Di. They were about to speak when Chu Yang raised his finger to stop them. Suddenly, they saw the two of them vomiting blood as if they wanted to vomit all the blood in their bodies. They were all shocked. Chu Yang stretched out his hand to stop everyone. He whispered, "Don't move. They're undergoing a rebirth." Oh! Jiu Du Xing and the others immediately understood. They also saw Chu Yang throw a drop of something strange into their mouths. They all understood that the two of them were undergoing a rebirth this time. It must have a lot to do with Chu Yang. Chu's voice was serious. He lowered his voice and said, "This time, they were reborn when Jimo and Luo Kedi broke through the supreme grade and crossed the boundary between immortal and mortal. Their own efforts. They did it themselves to do it. Do you understand? Yang's tus to go. To die's to die. All the brothers nodded in unison. They understood Chu Yang's good intentions. Their Yang's mo. This was enough to make Jimo and Luo Ku Di's self-confidence explode from now on. To dies. To be to their heavens. Tus to die. With such a mindset, the progress of the two of them was terrifying. Cultivation. To cultivate. Their mentality. If their mentality was unstable, it would be easy for them to go berserk. But with such strong confidence, Jimo and Luo Kedi didn't have to worry about anything. They just had to charge forward. Because I'm invincible. Dong Wushong was the only one who was confused. He scratched his head and asked, "Why?" Just as he said it, Mo Lei pinched his waist and spun him around. "You pig head. Shut up." Dong Wushong's scream was like a cow's roar. But he didn't dare to say anything more. Mo Lei's lips opened and closed, but she was explaining to him telepathically. After a long explanation, Dong Wushong's rough face finally showed a look of realization. He slapped his thigh and said, "I see. Boss is so thoughtful." Before he finished, Mo Lei reached out and twisted him again. "You're still talking. Ouch! Dong Wushong suddenly howled. He was in so much pain that he sucked in cold air and shivered all over. At this moment, Luo Kedi woke up. He opened his eyes in a daze. "Brother Dong?" Dong Wushong endured the pain and flashed a smile. "What's wrong?" Luo Kedi said with dissatisfaction, "Why are you stealing my business?" Dong Wushong was speechless. Jimo also woke up. When he woke up, he realized that he was different. A feeling of being reborn filled his heart, and he couldn't help but laugh out loud. Motherfucker, 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 motherfucker. She was so excited that her speech was incoherent. She hugged Luo Ku Di, and the two of them hugged each other. They laughed and shouted at the same time. Instantly, the sound of dog aunt and Awu rang out incessantly. She laughed jubilantly as tears streamed down her face. Finally, he was free from his shackles. Although they didn't know how effective it would be, it was certain that they would be reborn. This was something that both of them could feel. The two laughed and cried at the same time. This made Chu Yang and the others somewhat unable to react. They should have been happy for the two of them, giving their blessings, and laughing together. But when they saw the two of them crying, they couldn't help but feel sad. Everyone knew how much pressure and pain Jimo and Luo Ku Di had felt before they reached this day. Jimo and Luo Ku Di only regained their composure after a long time. They turned to look at their brothers, and couldn't help but feel a little embarrassed. But how thick-skinned were these two people? They quickly adjusted their mentality. Wiping away their tears, Jimo laughed and said, "Everyone has broken through, right? At Jiu Du Xing and the others' side. Luo Ku Di proudly puffed out his chest. I have also broken through. Everyone was stunned. Very surprised, right? Jimo proudly strode like a cat in front of everyone. He shook his butt and said, Big brother has also broken through. So what? I have broken through. So what? I have broken through. So what? Surprised, right? Surprised, right? Unbelievable, right? Unimaginable, right? But Big brother has broken through. Wahahaha. Let's go out, it's my treat. Luo Ku Di roared, his heroism reaching the clouds. Eat whatever you want. Even if you want to eat dragon's liver and phoenix's gallbladder, I will immediately skin Ao Xieyun and Rui Butong. Everyone lowered their heads. These two fellows were obviously so excited that they didn't know what to say. The two of you are only at the beginner level, but Ao Xieyun and Rui Butong are already at the peak, as expected. The next moment, Ao Xieyun and Rui Butong roared and pounced forward. Mo Tianji nodded lightly. Come, let's go out. The brothers tacitly followed behind Chu Yang and Mo Tianji, walking out in a single file. They didn't even turn back, even though there were two people behind them begging for mercy at the top of their lungs. As if they didn't hear anything, Yu Lingxue was shocked. He remembered very clearly that when Chu Yang and the others entered this mine, their strength was uneven. Some were 5th grade, some were 4th grade, some were 3rd grade, some were 2nd grade. But those who came out now, they were all of the same grade. Hiss. Yu Lingxue gasped and said somewhat stutteringly, All of you have broken through? Aha. Chu Yang nodded. All of you are of the same grade. Yu Lingxue only felt that his brain was dizzy. Even the last two people who came out with bruises all over their faces. They were also supreme martial artists. He couldn't help but be shocked. All of you have crossed the boundary between immortal and mortal. The brothers nodded. Yu Lingxue was stunned. As a 2nd grade supreme martial artist, he naturally understood. The boundary between immortal and mortal was so difficult to cross. How many amazing geniuses had been cultivating at lightning speed, but they were stuck between the 5th grade. Unable to advance even an inch in their lives. Even himself and Feng Yuro. When they tried to break through the boundary between immortal and mortal back then, with the help of a powerful technique like Moonbreeze as one, they still cultivated for as long as 30 years before they succeeded in breaking through. It was already considered fast back then. But today, his worldview was completely turned upside down. What kind of help was a breakthrough in 30 years? Look at these 11 people in front of him. They all broke through to supreme martial artists in just half a month. And they didn't start from the peak of 5th grade, some even started from 1st grade supreme martial artists. For example, Mo Qingwu. Some started from 2nd grade, for example, Jimo, Luo Kedi and Mo Tianji. Some started from 3rd grade, for example, Ao Xieyun and Xie Danqiong. Some started from 4th grade. For example, Chu Yang and Jiu Duxing. Some started from 5th grade, for example, Dong Wushang, Rui Butong and Mo Lei and now, all of them had reached the peak of 5th grade. Yu Lingxue was on the verge of breaking down. And 2 or 3 of them had reached the peak of 5th grade, or even the peak of 5th grade. They reached the peak right after breaking through. This. Yu Lingxue suddenly wanted to go into the mine to take a look. Damn it, could there be a deity inside? Just pointing at someone and they would break through? While Yu Lingxue was in a daze. Let's hurry back. Time is of the essence. We need to settle things here as soon as possible and then move to the northwest. Chu Yang said. That's right. Now, that traitor is already useless. Mo Tianji agreed and said, it is indeed time to get rid of him. Only Mo Tianji was still thinking about the traitor at such a time. Chu Yang nodded silently. The traitor. As long as they found out, they would hand it over to the clan to deal with. As a junior himself. This kind of extermination, he really couldn't do it. The brothers set off together with Yu Lingxue. Chu Yang, Ao Xieyun and Rui Butong stayed at the back. When they saw that everyone had gone far away, they activated their divine techniques and grabbed the entire mountain range where the mine was. Then, With a flip of their palms, they landed on the ground. Then, with continuous movements of both hands, there were continuous rumbling sounds. The few small mountains nearby were transported over by Chu Yang and completely covered above. May the dragon and phoenix elders below rest in peace. I hope that from now on, no one will disturb your peace for all eternity. Chu Yang lowered his head and said quietly. Ao Xieyun and Rui Butong knelt down and kowtowed 3 times to express their gratitude and farewell to the dragon and phoenix elders. Then, the 3 of them turned and chased after them. The moment he turned his head, Chu Yang's body shook. Ao Xieyun asked, "Boss, what's wrong?" Chu Yang said, "Nothing." Moving, the 3 of them left quickly. At that moment, Chu Yang clearly heard a voice that seemed to ring from the bottom of his heart. It said slowly, "Calamity Sword, 8th Fragment, City of Fairies, 3rd Update, please vote. Cough, today is my mother's birthday. I didn't expect my mother-in-law to come too. When she saw the birthday present I bought for my mother, she said bitterly, the gold bracelet looks better. Cough, for my mother-in-law's birthday last year, I bought her a silver one. I feel that I'm going to be in trouble, as if a storm is brewing." Chapter 14:23. Chu Yang was startled. City of Fairies? Where was the City of Fairies? He had obtained the 7th fragment of the Calamity Sword from the dragon and Phoenix brings prosperity. He had also brought out the location of the 8th fragment, which was related to the fairy race. Smart kids remember Network Super Fast Hands Sword Spirit. Where did the previous owners of the Calamity Sword get their swords from? Could it be from the dragon and Phoenix brings prosperity or the City of Fairies? Chu Yang asked. How is that possible? The sword spirit smiled. You are the only one who has such luck since ancient times. The previous owners of the Calamity Sword didn't even have any rare herbs. Chu Yang replied with an "oh" and asked, "Then do you know where the City of Fairies is?" The sword spirit smiled helplessly. How would I know? But, if you want to know, there is one person who definitely knows where the City of Fairies is, and this person will be happy to bring you there. Chu Yang suddenly realized. Duke Yu. That's right. The sword spirit said, in this world, only Duke Yu knows and can find the City of Fairies. Chu Yang nodded silently. Duke Yu should have come up the moment the heavens opened. But why was there no news of him until now? Where did he go? After sorting out his emotions, Chu Yang looked at Ao Xieyun and Rui Butong, who had been waiting for a long time. Facing their concerned gazes, he smiled warmly. It's okay. Let's go. Another 2 days later. Chu Yang galloped on his horse. The wind that came against him was already somewhat chilly. It was already the 5th day since he left the Chu clan. He was already close to the river and about to leave the southeast. Thinking of his grandfather's sad expression when he talked about the traitor when he returned to the clan, he sighed. Chu Feilong's wife, Madame Wei. He had committed suicide the moment Chu Yang and the others returned home. She left behind a few words, half in the night, half surnamed Chu. There are joys and laughter in the morning, and bitterness in the evening. I want to be filial and merciful, but I can't help it. One is for the kindness of raising me, the other is for the bloodline of my husband. Half my life is melancholy and half laughter, a lifetime of conflict and loneliness. Now that I am gone, is there a husband in the spring? The guilty Madame Wei asks for forgiveness. I ask the Chu clan to take pity on my Yun and take care of him on account that he is of the Chu bloodline. There is no need for glory and splendor. There is no need for riches and honor. I don't need to use force to live a peaceful life. That is my greatest wish. From this last poem, one could see the woman's conflicted feelings. She might be vicious. Perhaps it was sinister. Perhaps it was unforgivable, but this life was full of contradictions. It was painful. One was for the grace of raising her, and the other was for the bloodline of her husband. The kindness of the Yi clan's upbringing, the kinship of the Chu clan's bloodline. As for the words half a lifetime of melancholy, half a lifetime of laughter, a lifetime of conflict, a lifetime of loneliness, it made one's heart ache even more. After all, she was just a tool used by the Yi clan to deal with other clans. And the Yi clan had buried this chess piece. It was to control the Chu clan and deal with the Xiao clan. But perhaps it was due to good luck or some other reason, but after so many years, he still failed on the verge of success. Now that the bones have turned into a breeze, is there a man in the spring? Chu Yang sighed. She still had feelings for Chu Feilong. On this trip to the Yellow Springs, he was still thinking about whether he could find Chu Feilong. But, so what if he found it? Chu Yang really couldn't comment on this woman. Brother Chu Yang, what are you sighing about? Mo Qingwu was dressed in red, riding on the same horse with Chu Yang. Her soft hair fluttered on Chu Yang's face, as if it wanted to tickle Chu Yang's heart. Hearing Chu Yang's sigh, she turned her head slightly and asked. Chu Yang took a breath and said in a low voice, I'm thinking that in this world, there are so many contradictions. Good and bad, loyal and treacherous, straight and crooked, right and wrong. The boundaries of these are really hard to describe, Mo Qingwu said softly, yes. Some things, if explained logically, don't make sense. Chu Yang nodded and said, yes, in this world, there are people first, then there are reasons. Reasons are created by people. How can they explain the human heart to the fullest? Mo Qingwu said in a low voice, yes, just like the many heartless men in this world. It's really hard to understand and explain. Chu Yang's heart skipped a beat and he asked, Mo Qingwu looked back and smiled, saying, of course I'm not talking about you. Chu Yang smiled wryly. He suddenly felt that something was wrong. Mo Qingwu laughed and said, Chu Yang, I'm now at the peak of supreme martial artist. Chu Yang was confused. Oh. Mo Qingwu wrinkled her nose and said, in the future, no matter what you do, I can help you. No matter where you go, I can accompany you. Chu Yang felt the friendship in Mo Qingwu's words and couldn't help but sigh. Yes. No matter where I go, you can accompany me. So, don't think of leaving me behind again. Mo Qingwu tilted her head and smiled softly. I want to be with you, in life and death. As if struck by lightning, Chu Yang's body trembled violently. His eyes widened and he looked at Mo Qingwu with some horror. Mo Qingwu's clear eyes looked at him. Then, she gently avoided his gaze and looked to the side. With a gentle smile, she said, Chu Yang. That dream, I've reached the end. Suddenly, Chu Yang's mind was struck by lightning, making him dizzy. His breathing quickened and his heart beat like a drum. He opened his mouth and his lips were so dry that they were about to crack. He said, what, dream, reached the end? The autumn wind blew in front of them, blowing up the dust on the ground. Mo Qingwu's red clothes were as red as blood in the dust. Her smile also seemed to become ethereal. This time, she didn't avoid his eyes and said softly, it's that dream. Chu Yang suddenly felt as if his head was covered with ice and snow. His whole body quivered and he muttered, reached the end. Mo Qingwu nodded affirmatively. Yes. Chu Yang smiled and said, that's just a dream. Mo Qingwu frowned slightly and said with some confusion between her brows, but I feel that it's real. Chu Yang took in this trace of confusion and relaxed immediately. He said in a low voice, but it's not real after all. The strong horse galloped. Mo Qingwu turned around on the horse and looked at him fixedly. Her red clothes fluttered and covered her head. Her beautiful hair rushed towards Chu Yang's face. Her eyes were deep and tender. She murmured softly, Chu Yang, Chu Yang, Chu Yang. Unexpectedly, it was a tone that was filled with 1,000 twists and turns, a tone that was so tender that it seemed like it was about to break. Chu Yang held her in his arms, and let her feel the warmth of his body. He rested his chin on Mo Qingwu's head, and said in a soft, resolute, heavy, and heartbroken voice, that was a dream. That's a dream. Mo Qingwu's eyes dimmed. Then she buried her face in Chu Yang's arms and felt that familiar smell. She nodded gently and said softly, yes, that's a dream. Then she didn't move anymore. She snuggled in Chu Yang's arms. Her breathing was heavy and she actually fell asleep. Chu Yang's face was like water. His eyes looked straight ahead. He looked at the scenery on both sides flying backward. His eyes were malicious, like an injured beast. At this moment, no one dared to come near him. He didn't even know what he was thinking in his heart. But his whole body was filled with mania. But it made all his brothers believe one thing: if there was an enemy in front of him at this moment, even if it was a million-strong army, if he didn't kill them all, he wouldn't stop. Mo Tianji rode a white horse and followed beside him. Seeing Mo Qingwu snuggling in Chu Yang's arms, he was a little dissatisfied and jealous at first. But gradually, he realized that Mo Qingwu and Chu Yang's expressions were a little abnormal. He couldn't help but ponder. Could it be that something happened? 11 people and 10 horses. They galloped towards the center of the continent. Another 3 days later, they reached the Black Blood Forest. It took them 5 days to pass through the Black Blood Forest. It was that familiar scenery again. 2 years of round trips. Chu Yang sighed in his heart. Looking at the ink-black Black Blood Forest behind him, he suddenly thought of a poem and an aloof woman in a fluttering white dress. Noble and elegant, as cold as the moon, an unattainable woman. If we meet again in the clouds, please sweep away the fallen flowers in Jiangnan. Chu Yang smiled bitterly and urged the horse forward. Up ahead, they reached the Yi clan's territory. From here, they would go all the way to the northwest. There, they still had an extremely important battle to catch up with. Diwu Qingru needed that battle, and so did Mo Tianji. As if he could tell what Chu Yang was thinking, Mo Tianji urged the horse closer to him. Don't be anxious. We have to go there slowly. Chu Yang frowned slightly. Go there slowly? Mo Tianji smiled. Firstly, our strength has just taken a big step forward. This kind of sudden increase in strength needs to be honed before it can be integrated with our own battle techniques, as well as the tacit understanding between brothers. We need time. Otherwise, if we go there rashly and meet with any accidents, there will be unnecessary injuries. Secondly, we are anxious about the current situation, but you have to believe that Diwu Qingru is even more anxious than us. Mo Tianji revealed an inexplicable smile. We are anxious, but we can totally hold it in. But Diwu Qingru is now like an ant being roasted on fire. He is so anxious that he is close to breaking down, so there's no harm in letting him bear it a little longer. Mo Tianji smiled. Chu Yang suddenly felt a little happy. He scolded with a smile, Tianji, I just realized that you are much more sinister than Diwu Qingru. Mo Tianji smiled. Also, no matter how anxious he is, Diwu Qingru will do his best to maintain it. Moreover, he will use a method that will continuously increase his prestige to maintain this situation. I absolutely believe in this. If he can't do it, then he doesn't deserve to be our opponent. Chu Yang nodded. He also firmly believed in this point. Let's go. Now that everyone has crossed the boundary between immortals and mortals, let us start from the northwest and stir up the world. Mo Tianji raised his eyebrows and looked at the northwest. He said lightly, it's also time to let Diwu Qingru know about me. Chapter 1424. These words made Yi Xiaoyaro and the rest lower their heads in shame. Smart kids remember network super fast Hanslan Morphing lowered his head, only feeling a burning sensation in his heart. He held back the tears that hadn't really flowed out of his eyes for thousands of years. Only he knew. What Diwu Qingru said, the reason for him to stay here was to consider the big picture, to fight a common enemy, to be friends for thousands of years, and so on. It was complete nonsense. Because the current Lan Morphing didn't think of the plan to live in seclusion in the mountains at all. He didn't know where he was going to go in the future at all. After the clan was wiped out, Lan Morphing had been at a loss. His heart was muddled, like a walking corpse. He didn't even have the strength to think about the future. He could only stay here and risk his life in confusion and resentment. As for the friendship of the big clans, Lan Morphing cursed in his heart. Friendship, my ass. What kind of friendship do you have with them? As for now, Diwu Qingru had proposed a solution: live in seclusion in the mountains and wait for the right time. But, not only Lan Morphing, but the others also knew how could it be so easy to live in seclusion in the mountains. Once the war started and the wind and clouds gathered, no matter where you were, it would be easy to find you. What's more, where would the resources, food, drinks, and other things for cultivation come from after living in seclusion. The few people left in the Lan clan could be said to be poor at this moment. Were the descendants of the big clans going to be reduced to robbing people? So this plan obviously wasn't feasible. But Diwu Qingru's words had an effect after all. Diwu Qingru didn't go overboard. Then he said, "Our opponent is the Tribulation Sword Master. For thousands of years, once the Tribulation Sword Master appeared, he would sweep the world. If we don't unite at this time, we can only wait to repeat the fate of our seniors and be swept away again. So, everyone." He stopped speaking earnestly. Only then did everyone start to really discuss. Under Diwu Qingru's guidance, they finally got on the right track step by step. First, they sent 2 experts to infiltrate and find out the truth. Then, they would make plans. At the same time, they would ask for help from the clan. As for the 2 people sent out, firstly, they had to be smart. Secondly, he had to be meticulous. Thirdly, his cultivation had to be high. Fourthly, his speed had to be fast. Fifthly, when facing a lower Jizuan, he had to have a certain degree of confidence in escaping. Therefore, after a long discussion, the candidates were finally decided, Xiao Zhengyang and Shi Qishu. The 2 of them immediately set off, disappearing into the heavy night fog. Diwu Qingru returned to his tent and took out a book. Then, he leaned against the cushion and started to read. His posture seemed very leisurely. However, only those who were familiar with him could tell that he was actually waiting for something. After a long time, a voice came from outside the tent. "May I ask if Commander-in-Chief Diwu is here?" A low voice sounded. Immediately after, someone reported, "Commander-in-Chief, Senior Lan requests an audience." Diwu Qingru sounded very surprised. "Ah? Please come in." The door curtain was lifted, and a gust of chilly air gushed in. Lan Morfeng walked in and bowed very respectfully toward Diwu Qingru. "Commander-in-Chief Diwu. You're too polite." Diwu Qingru stood up. Putting down the book in his hands, he enthusiastically offered his seat to Zhongxian. "Elder, please take a seat." "Servants, serve tea." The aroma of tea filled the air. Lan Morfeng didn't speak for a long time. Diwu Qingru was naturally even more patient. He just smiled and drank tea with him, similarly not saying a word. "Commander-in-Chief. Although Commander-in-Chief has explained everything to me today, I can feel that the Yi and Xiao clan will never let anyone or anything go wrong. The Yi clan, Xiao clan, and the rest definitely won't let our Lan clan off just because of this." After a long while, Lan Morfeng finally spoke. The moment he spoke, he went straight to the point. Diwu Qingru frowned and said, "I can guess that too. My reason is a little far-fetched after all. However, they won't be so stupid as to destroy their own Great Wall at this time, right? This is a critical moment." Lan Morfeng smiled bitterly. "We are actually the same kind of people. To us, there's actually nothing to be concerned about at critical moments. We're all people who have gone through life and death in the martial world. We should strike when it's time. This is a principle. The Lan clan has finally declined. In their eyes, our little bit of power is already irrelevant to the big picture. Besides, after 10,000 years, they're actually not very afraid of the Tribulation Sword Master anymore. 10,000 years of supremacy has cultivated confidence and arrogance that's hard to get rid of." Lan Morfeng smiled sadly. "For example, Commander-in-Chief Diwu, to be honest, although the Lan clan has already been destroyed by the Tribulation Sword Master and we're the only ones left, it's enough to show how terrifying the Tribulation Sword Master is, right?" Diwu Qingru nodded. "That's right. The Tribulation Sword Master and his tribulation are very scary." Lan Morfeng laughed as if he was about to cry. But even now, in the eyes of the Lan clan, these stray dogs, the Tribulation Sword Master is still not that scary and can still be destroyed with a flip of the hand. This mentality even includes myself. Do you understand what I'm saying? Diwu Qingru sighed deeply, his expression heavy. It may sound ridiculous, but I really do understand. Lan Morfeng smiled sadly. He did understand. After 10,000 years of supremacy, 10,000 years of being high and mighty, this kind of arrogance and confidence had already seeped into his bones and couldn't be changed easily. Unless he encountered it personally and saw it with his own eyes, he might change a little. But, before he experienced it personally, there was no way he could change. A fatal arrogance. This was just like how we usually refused to admit defeat. Although we knew that someone was many times stronger than us and still lost to someone, in our hearts, we still felt that that someone was just SOSO. Diwu Qingru looked up and sighed. I finally understand why the big clans of the past failed. It's because of this mentality. He couldn't help but sigh. There were many ways to guard against the Tribulation Sword Master. There were also many ways to kill the Tribulation Sword Master. Even after the Tribulation Sword Master had grown up, there were still many ways to eliminate him. It wasn't impossible. But all the big clans in the past 10,000 years had failed. To the Tribulation Sword Master who had just started to grow up, their strength was billions of times stronger. To the Tribulation Sword Master who had grown up, it was already billions of times stronger. Even to the Tribulation Sword Master who was at his peak, the power of the big clans could still be dozens or even hundreds of times stronger. But they still lost. Why? Diwu Qingru had even thought of the stupidest way before: every 100 years or 50 years in the upper three heavens. Just go once for 3 days. Kill all the young experts who had risen to fame in one fell swoop. They would rather kill billions of people than let go of a suspicious person. If this went on, the Tribulation Sword Master wouldn't even have a chance to grow up. Even if the Tribulation Sword Master could grow up, then could the Tribulations too? As long as the Tribulation Sword Master couldn't gather all the tribulations, what was there to fear? But, for some reason, no one had ever implemented this method. No one had even done the stupidest way. Not to mention the other methods, it's not a bad thing to have confidence and pride. Lan Morfeng said bitterly, but to big clans like us, it's a fatal oversight. If it weren't for the great change in the clan, I wouldn't have thought of it either. But even though I've thought of it now, I still can't change my mentality. Diwu Qingru let out a long sigh. So big clans are destined not to be united. Lan Morfeng smiled bitterly. Diwu Qingru lowered his eyes. No one knew what he was thinking. So, it won't be long before the Yi and Xiao clans deal with us. And when that time comes, it will also make things difficult for you, the Commander-in-Chief. Diwu Qingru tapped the table lightly with his fingers. Yes, I've also thought of this. At present, I'm looking for a way to resolve this crisis. Lan Morfeng fell silent again. After a long while, he suddenly raised his head. Commander-in-Chief Diwu, your Diwu clan is only a vassal of the Zhuge clan. For someone as talented as you, it's really too much of a pity and too much of a grievance. Diwu Qingru smiled bitterly. There's nothing we can do even if it's grievance. Lan Morfeng asked cautiously, Commander-in-Chief, what plans does the Diwu clan have in the future? Diwu Qingru was silent for a moment. Finally, he said dispassionately, the birth of the tribulations is a tribulation for your big clans, but also an opportunity for you. But at the same time, it's also an opportunity for the Diwu clan. It's not necessarily impossible for us to rise. Diwu Qingru's voice was very heavy. Heroes emerge in troubled times. He spoke very frankly and clearly, not hiding his ambition at all. He knew that what Lan Morfeng needed now was his own ambition. If he had no ambition, then Lan Morfeng would turn around and leave. He wouldn't even say anything more to him. Lan Morfeng stared at him for a long while before he said, Commander-in-Chief, thank you for your honesty. Now, I have a suggestion. Diwu Qingru said gently, please speak. We can work together. Lan Morfeng took a deep breath. Commander-in-Chief is someone who can achieve great things, so I'll take a gamble. From today onwards, I'll hand over the fate of the Lan clan to you, Commander-in-Chief. We'll create great things together. If one day, Commander-in-Chief achieves meteoric success, I only ask that you give the Lan clan a place to establish its foundation so that my descendants can reproduce and live on. That will be enough. Diwu Qingru fell silent. After a long while, he sighed softly. I hope that I can strengthen the Diwu clan, and I also hope that I can bring glory to both our clans at the same time. Lan Morfeng stood up, his eyes shining with excitement. Thank you. Thank you. Lord. Lord. Upon hearing this form of address, Diwu Qingru's eyes shone brightly. He smiled gently and said, Rest assured, Senior Lan. As long as I, Diwu Qingru, am around, the Lan clan will not be wiped out. Yes. Lan Morfeng had thought it through very clearly before he came here. All kinds of ostracization and scheming previously, and the situation of being at the end of the road made him know that only by joining Diwu Qingru now would he have a chance of survival. Otherwise, when the Yi clan and the Xiao clan really made their move, then even Diwu Qingru would have no choice but to go with the flow. As he watched Lan Morfeng walk out, Diwu Qingru slowly sat down and put his face in the shadow of the light. Chu Yang, the pressure you put on the big clans will make me successful. Diwu Qingru said quietly in his heart, Before you arrived, I've already done it. If you come, I'll gain even more. Third update, I beg for monthly votes, I beg for recommendation votes, GRQ. Chapter 1425. There was no smugness on Diwu Qingru's face. Instead, there was some heaviness. Smart kids remember network super fast hands. My current strength is still a far cry from Chu Yang's brother tribulation. With his hands behind his back, Diwu Qingru paced slowly in the tent, thinking to himself, I still need to continue exerting pressure. Although Lan Morfeng is on my side for the time being, he was forced by the situation after all. Strictly speaking, it's not my own strength. It's just that it may be easy to divide and intimidate the remaining people, but it's almost impossible to subdue them. Diwu Qingru pondered and paced. There was a burst of mist in the air. A black shadow suddenly appeared in the tent and stood quietly behind Diwu Qingru. Diwu Qingru's expression didn't change, as if he didn't notice. He was still pacing, but he asked softly, May I ask why you helped me? His tone seemed to have long noticed the arrival of the black shadow. It was very normal and calm. And he went straight to the point. There was absolutely no nonsense like you're here. A strange light flashed in the black shadow's eyes. He said solemnly, You can detect my arrival? Diwu Qingru didn't speak. He just shook his head lightly. Just from this sentence, he deduced that this person's IQ wasn't very high. Because what he should be asking the most was how did you detect my arrival, and not you can detect my arrival? One was a simple question, and the other was a question with a purpose. The two sentences sounded similar, but in fact, they were very different. The air has changed. Diwu Qingru said lightly. You're still hiding your strength, right? The man in black said lightly, with your age and experience, you can't reach such a high cultivation level. It's impossible to reach such a high level of cultivation. How did you do it? Diwu Qingru shook his head. May I ask who asked you to help me? With these two sentences, Diwu Qingru knew that this man in black wasn't the leader. If the leader had such IQ, then Diwu Qingru would rather give up the vested interests than cooperate with him. A wolf-like enemy was easy to deal with, but a pig-like ally was really deadly. A few days ago, when the man in black came to Diwu Qingru and proposed the assassination plan, Diwu Qingru was already puzzled. Today, the assassination plan had already worked. He finally asked the question in his heart. There's always a reason for helping you, the black-robed man said dispassionately. It's just a mere Lan Morfeng and the remaining forces of the Lan clan. I'm still too weak. Diwu Qingru nodded. Someone wanted me to ask you, who are you waiting for? The black-clothed man asked. Diwu Qingru indifferently said, since this person asked you to ask me who I am waiting for, then he already knows who I am waiting for. The man in black had the urge to scratch his head. But he held himself back. He asked the most important question, do you know their identity? Diwu Qingru sneered, if I had known, would I have done this? The black-clothed man couldn't help but nod. Yes, if he really knew their identities, then the world would have long been at peace. We are doing this for your Diwu family. You don't have to be wary of us. The man in black followed his instructions and said this sentence. Diwu Qingru insipidly said, I have never doubted my allies. As long as he's not too mysterious. The black-clothed man was silent. There was a kind of anger brewing within him. But in the end, he didn't flare up. Tomorrow, we'll stop the two from the Xiao and Shi families. I'm here to inform you. Diwu Qingru nodded and said without any surprise, don't kill them. Of course. The black-robed man laughed mischievously. Then, he turned around and disappeared without a trace. Diwu Qingru's posture didn't change. He stood quietly. After a long time, only then did he shake his head. There were countless questions in his mind, but he didn't say any of them out loud. But he only maintained an attitude of distrust at the very least. Because the other party was too mysterious. For people like Diwu Qingru, mystery meant danger. Diwu Qingru would never tell his plans to people he didn't know the details of. Don't be wary of you. How could that be possible? Who is the mastermind? What does he have to do with the Diwu family? Or is he using me? Why is he using me? If he's not using me, why is he helping me so much? What do I have to be used for? Could it be the law enforcement officers? Could it be the Li family? Or the people on Chu Yang's side are pretending to be mysterious? On the surface, this matter seems to benefit my Diwu family, but in the end, who will be the real beneficiary? Even if the Diwu family benefits, will there be any serious consequences? These were all questions for Diwu Qingru. But now, he only buried them in his heart and didn't even mutter to himself. I'd rather be a free man with no power than a puppet with great power. Diwu Qingru's eyes sharpened. No matter who you are, no matter what your purpose is, I will find out sooner or later. You want to keep me, Diwu Qingru, in the dark. Who in this world can do that? Darkness. A man in a black robe stood at the top of the mountain, looking at the thousands of miles of snow and ice in front of him, motionless. The sound of clothes fluttering in the wind was heard. A black shadow came like lightning. How is it? The man in the black robe asked. He's very cautious. And very careful. But a little too careful, the man in black said respectfully. If he wasn't careful, the Diwu family would have been finished long ago. The man in the black robe frowned and sighed. After listening to the man in black recount the process of this trip, he said lightly, since he knows what to do, then cooperate with his plan. Although it was a little rushed, but, we can't wait any longer. Yes. Even if he has some reservations, it's because we are too mysterious. You don't have to worry about this. Yes. I'll sit at the place we agreed on earlier and watch the overall situation. If there's nothing important, don't look for me, the man in the black robe said with his hands behind his back. Yes. When I'm not here, you just have to listen to Diwu Qingru's command. The man in the black robe said, seeing him is like seeing me. Seeing him is like seeing me. This sentence was a little heavy. The man in black certainly knew what kind of monstrous power the man in front of him had. When he heard this sentence, he almost couldn't believe his own ears. The man in black sweated all over and bowed to the ground. Yes. I'll follow your orders. The man in the black robe smiled sinisterly and floated up, disappearing into the night fog. The man in black slowly stood up, intuitively confused. He muttered to himself, what's going on? What's so earth-shattering about this Diwu family? How is he worthy of the master's favor? Why can't I see it? Could it be? He and the master have something. Before he finished speaking, there was a whooshing sound from afar. He had already suffered a heavy slap on his face. A voice came directly into his ears from afar, extremely cold and harsh. You're courting death. The man in black sweated profusely and fell to his knees. He kowtowed repeatedly. Me. After a cold snort, the man in black spat out a mouthful of blood as if his chest had been hit by a hammer. He fell to the ground, exhausted. But he was finally relieved. If there's one more time, self-destruct. Following this harsh reprimand, there were no other sounds in the world. The man in black kowtowed to the ground. Yes. He almost fainted. Self-destruct. If there was one more time, it would actually end up with his body and soul destroyed. In another place in this world. The mountains still stood tall, the snow still covered thousands of miles, and the land was still covered in snow. "Le-oh. How is it?" Wu Jueqing, dressed in black, stood with his hands behind his back, looking at his disciple dotingly. Wu Jueqing was extremely satisfied with this disciple of his. Her progress in cultivation and comprehension were really unparalleled in the world, especially in the cultivation of poison techniques. Her progress was even more rapid. Coupled with the help of those heaven-defying resources left behind by Chu Yang, she was already on the verge of breaking through to supreme martial artist in a short period of time. The fog around Chu Le slowly retracted back into her petite body. After a moment of silence, she said, "Teacher, this poison technique of our sect, if it's not caused by secret poison techniques and techniques, our heavenly poison divine technique is more like an orthodox technique. When I cultivate it, I feel like I'm just and honorable." There was a smile in Wu Jueqing's eyes. "Oh." Confusion appeared on Chu Le-er's tender face. Poison techniques, in the eyes of others, aren't elegant. Rather, they have a sinister feel to them. However, I can't quite understand why they're being used in such an open and above-board manner, Wu Jueqing chuckled. "Girl, it's normal for you to have such thoughts. This world has always been taught this way, it's understandable. However, to the true heavenly Tao of martial arts, this saying is wrong." Chu Le asked, "Wrong? There's no good or evil in martial arts, there's good or evil in people." Wu Jueqing said dispassionately, "You must remember this. If there's anything you don't understand, if I'm not around in the future, just ask your big brother. Your big brother has an exceptionally deep understanding of this saying." "Yes." Chu Le-er's face lit up. As long as someone praised Chu Yang, Chu Le would be happy. "Of course, this saying is also relative." Wu Jueqing said, "I heard that the techniques of some alien races are very different from ours. Their techniques are different from ours. However, I've never seen them before. If you see them in the future, just kill them without mercy." "Yes." Wu Jueqing looked into the void and said solemnly, "Let me ask you, why do you cultivate martial arts?" Chu Le replied without hesitation, "This, I've heard Big Brother say before, that cultivating martial arts and becoming strong is to protect. To protect the people and things one cares about. To protect one's bottom line, to protect one's own responsibility." "Hypocrite." Wu Jueqing pursed his lips and said mercilessly, "Your big brother really disgusts me." Chu Le pouted at once. "Teacher, your words are really unpleasant to hear. You have to apologize to me." Wu Jueqing said straightforwardly, "I'm sorry, I said the wrong thing." Wu Jueqing's apology was very well practiced. It came out of his mouth instantly and flowed smoothly. Other than the lack of sincerity, there was really nothing wrong with it. One could guess that this wasn't the first time the poison doctor had apologized to his disciple like this along the way. G.R.Q. Chapter 1426. Chu Le snorted, fuming and not saying anything. "Smart kids remember network super fast hands," Wu Jueqing said. "Actually, the real purpose of becoming stronger in martial arts is to kill people. Whether it's to protect, to plunder, or to achieve longevity. But there's a prerequisite: no matter what you do, you have to kill people. If you don't kill people, you will be killed. You say that you protect. Then, when someone wants to harm the thing you want to protect, or the person you want to protect, will you kill this person? If you don't kill him, he will come again next time. He may even destroy everything you protect. So you have to kill him. If someone obstructs you from achieving longevity, will you kill him? If you want to plunder someone else's things, will they give it to you obediently just because you say so? Therefore, killing people is the most important thing in martial arts practice. Practicing sabers, swords, and fists is all to kill people. And the reason we use poison is also to kill people." Wu Jueqing said, "Why can they do it openly, but we can't? We who use poison should be even more righteous than those who practice sabers, swords, fists, and kicks. More open and above board. Because, compared to us, they are the ones who only want to kill people. But if we use poison well, not only can we kill people, we can also save people. But can they use swords and sabers to save people? Wu Jueqing said, "That's why we are the good guys. Le, you have to remember this." Chu Le said indignantly, "They use sabers, swords, fists, and feet to uphold justice. Of course they can save people. What is upholding justice?" Wu Jueqing pursed his lips. If they want to save a person who is surrounded, then, if they don't kill the people who are attacking this person, can they save them? Can they uphold justice? Upholding justice also requires killing people. Chu Le was a little confused at once. She felt that what her teacher said was all fallacious logic, but to refute it completely, she couldn't do it at all. If we use the same poison, someone will die. If we use the same poison, they will die. But some people will come back to life. Have you seen anyone who uses a saber to bring a dead person back to life? Wu Jueqing said mockingly. Chu Le was stunned. This sentence was even more irrefutable. That's why we are the true righteous rulers. Wu Jueqing lectured him righteously. That's why our sky poison sect's mental cultivation technique is so profound. That's why he's so open and above board. Chu Le said doubtfully, "I see." Wu Jueqing was greatly comforted. This northwest region is now the most dangerous place in the pugilistic world. Then you can go out and practice. Wu Jueqing said, "There are as many experts as there are clouds in the sky. You can totally let loose and train as much as you want." All right. Chu Le was eager to try, her eyes shining. "Stay here for the next 2 days and don't move. Try your best to break through. I'm going out for a while." Wu Jueqing said, "With Wn Renjie and the other two guarding you, there shouldn't be any problems." "Master, where are you going?" Chu Le tilted her head and asked. A hint of a cold smile appeared on Wu Jueqing's thin face. "I can sense that an old friend seems to have come here as well. And he's even stirring up a storm here. No matter what, I need to go over and say hello." Chu Le nodded as if she understood. "Master, come back earlier then." Wu Jueqing nodded slowly. "Of course." On the other side, Wn Renjie and the other two were also practicing day and night. Ever since Wei Wuyan's death, the three of them seemed to have suddenly become silent. Practicing. It became the most important thing in their lives. If their cultivation wasn't high, how could they destroy the Chen clan and avenge Wei Wuyan? This was the consensus of the three of them. And this time, they followed the poison doctor Wu Jueqing. Whether it was the art of poison or martial arts, this person was almost any in the world. He could be called a great grandmaster. With such a heaven-sent opportunity, wouldn't it be a waste if they didn't improve themselves properly? And Wu Jueqing didn't hide anything either. Although he was a little impatient with the three of them asking for advice, he still told them everything he knew. During this period of time, the three of them benefited a lot. The realm that they had just broken through was actually showing signs of breaking through again. Although it was because of the resources that Chu Yang left behind, this was after all the first time in their lives that the three of them cultivated at such a fast speed. So the three of them were pleasantly surprised. They cultivated even more diligently, wishing that they could use all their time to cultivate without eating, drinking, or sleeping. They were afraid that they would return to their original state after this period of time. Wu Jueqing instructed. Then, his black robe fluttered and he disappeared in a flash. No one knew where he went. Chu Yang and the others galloped on their horses and actually encountered very few obstacles. Only 30 to 40 people recognized that this person was the legendary extraterrestrial demon Chu Yang and wanted to do something. However, under the charge of a mid-grade supreme being, none of the waves could stop them for even a moment. Just like that, they smoothly crossed the Yi clan's territory. What worried Chu Yang was that Mo Qingwu suddenly became very sleepy after breaking through to the supreme martial artist level. She often nestled in Chu Yang's arms and slept for a day and a night. This made Chu Yang a little uneasy. Mo Tianji was even more anxious, as if his heart was on fire. Not to mention a supreme martial artist, even a king level wouldn't be so sleepy. Both of them were apprehensive. They didn't know how many times they took Mo Qingwu's pulse, checked on her, and asked her questions. Mo Tianji even specially divined the heavenly secrets for his sister's sleep, but of course, they didn't get anything. The only thing that reassured them was that once Mo Qingwu woke up, she would immediately return to normal. Her sleep had no effect on her mind and cultivation. Until now, Mo Qingwu had already been half asleep for 7 or 8 days. Mo Tianji was so anxious that blisters formed on his mouth. He even had some doubts. Damn it, is it because of Chu Yang's embrace? Does this guy have a sleepy body that my sister can't help but want to sleep every time she's in his arms? Chu Yang was furious about this for a long time. Mo Tianji once wanted to carry his sister on his way, but was sternly rejected by Chu Yang. His words made Mo Tianji unable to breathe for 3 days. Get lost. You scoundrel. Only the heavens knew how Mo Tianji felt when he heard this. But from the way he was gnashing his teeth, it was to the point where he couldn't wait to chop Chu Yang into meat dumplings. This day. Early morning. As the weather got colder and colder as they went north, Chu Yang had already wrapped Mo Qingwu in a thick mink coat. She was completely wrapped up. As the white snow drifted down, Chu Yang suddenly felt movement in his arms. The little girl was wriggling in his arms. She seemed to have woken up. He hurriedly lifted her up to take a look. The little girl's starry eyes were intoxicated, her cheeks were flushed, and her eyes were watery. It was the charming appearance of a sleepy begonia. Minister Chu instantly stared at her with lustful eyes. Chu Yang, it's very strange. Mo Qingwu blinked and rubbed her eyes. It's really strange. What's wrong? Minister Chu was a little scared when he asked this question. Could it be that she had that damn dream, several times again? Oh my God, it's tormented me so many times that I'm about to break down. I was unconscious for a few days, and I suddenly felt that I had comprehended something. Mo Qingwu wrinkled her beautiful eyebrows and said, a complete cultivation technique automatically appeared in my mind. Moreover, once this cultivation technique appeared, it automatically replaced my original cultivation path. That's why I was unconscious for a few days. Huh? Chu Yang was stunned. There's such a thing in the world. It's absolutely true. Mo Qingwu was also a little surprised. Chu Yang, could it be that I also have some kind of strange bloodline? The bloodline has its own inheritance. Nonsense. Mo Tianji, who was at the side, was furious. Little girl, if you spout any more nonsense, I'll spank your butt until it becomes a triangular 8-petal. Mo Tianji couldn't help but be angry. If Mo Qingwu had some kind of strange bloodline, then what would his whole family become? Chu Yang was furious. He turned around and shouted, "Why are you so fierce? You weren't so fierce when Qingwu was bullied. Now you're bullying your own sister. Shut up. Other than exposing the truth, you don't have any other skills." Mo Tianji muttered in dissatisfaction, but he shut his mouth obediently. His face was full of black lines. Chu Yang had pointed out Mo Tianji's weakness. It was as if someone had caught Mo Tianji's pigtail. Even if Mo Tianji had heaven-defying wisdom, he had no choice but to withdraw from the fight when Chu Yang had said these words. This was the ultimate weapon to deal with Mo Tianji. Of course, Chu Yang wouldn't forget that whenever Mo Tianji made Chu Yang unhappy, he would say this sentence with great familiarity. Every time this happened, Mo Tianji's unchanging pretentious face would have an expression as if he had eaten feces. If Chu Yang saw this kind of expression, it would be the greatest pleasure in the world. Even the greatest depression would be blown away with the wind. Minister Chu's mentality of building his own happiness on Mo Tianji's pain was really indescribable. Mo Qingwu shrank her neck. Brother Chu Yang is still the best. Second brother is so annoying every day. Yes, he's too annoying. Let's ignore him. Chu Yang hurriedly seized the opportunity to add insult to injury. Mo Qingwu giggled. Qingwu, compared to your original cultivation technique, which one is stronger? Chu Yang asked with concern. On the side, Mo Tianji stretched his ears with a black face. The current cultivation technique is very powerful, and much more powerful than the cultivation technique that my original master, Ning Tianya, taught me. Mo Qingwu said strangely, but where did this come from? On the side, Mo Tianji heaved a long sigh of relief and said, there are no disadvantages, right? For example, are there any serious consequences after practicing it? Second brother. You're really overthinking. Mo Qingwu said angrily, how can such a magical cultivation technique have such disadvantages? Mo Tianji smiled with relief. It's just my personality. I'm just casually asking. It's good that there's nothing wrong. Chu Yang also frowned and said, what's the name of this cultivation technique? Heavenly Dance. Mo Qingwu said, the introduction of this cultivation technique says that once you master it, you can move the heavens with a single dance. Heavenly Dance. Move the heavens with a single dance. Chu Yang's body shook. Thank you for your monthly votes. I will continue to write the third update. RQ. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.